Look, if you're going to play Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, you got to turn off every part of your brain that is not analytical. Because if you don't, it's all those parts that are turned on, they're going to scream in agony, right?
Most people out there are thinking of the drain snake. CBM's here at the Nuclear Heat Wave, and I'm here with the main man, the man with the plan. Rudy is here joining us to talk about, well, I don't know, it's my personal favorite 5th generation console.
I mean, if the 3DO had a plan behind it, I'm a little hesitant to give it that big of a word for it,
Yeah, I don't know. Why do I have a
there was an element to the plan that was really good, and we're going to talk about that. But all in all, overall, there were a lot of problems with the 3DO, and we're going to get into all that too.
Let me tell you, the grandiosity of it all that I'm trying to put over this magnanimous idea of a console. And well, look what happened. I keep gesturing with my hands as if I'm going to get that M2 coming down from the sky.
Yeah, right. Finally get that manufacturer recommended retail price down a little bit.
Ooh.
Oh man.
But what are your growing up? What were your thoughts and ideas about 3DO? Did you consider getting one? Or
I mean, I was back in the day, right? I was still, 10 years old or something. I didn't have a job or anything. I didn't have any money. And so the only way that I could have got a 3DO is if I could convince my parents to buy one, right? And of course, it was, this is the thing, right? Like the original NES, $100, pretty reasonable. You could convince your parents to do that for a birthday present or a Christmas present, probably. Super Nintendo, $200. A little harder, little bit of a harder sell, but doable. I eventually got a Super Nintendo, and we had one in the house, and it was kind of everybody's. Then we got into the next major generation where you had stuff like the Sega CD, the 32X, and we had this glut of consoles all of a sudden, because back with the Nintendo, it was Nintendo or Master System. With the Super Nintendo, it was pretty much Super Nintendo or Genesis. There was the TurboGrafx 16, which had some things going for it, but all in the US, it was a commercial failure pretty much. But then we had this glut of consoles, and there's a good reason for that, right? Because licensing fees for Nintendo, for Sega, were through the roof. And plus, it wasn't just licensing fees, right? Because if you wanted to get a game on Nintendo, on the NES, not only did you have to pay the licensing fee, you had to buy cartridges from Nintendo in lots of 1,000. You had to give your game to Nintendo for them to look at and censor and judge and say, is this good enough for the Nintendo seal of approval? And even more, you had to limit your company to having 4 or 5 games a year, something like that. And these licensing fees were not small. I tried looking around a bit, and as far as I could tell, they were mostly trade secrets where, the companies were like, yeah, you can't tell anybody what your license fee is. But the number that I did find was for the N64, and that number went as high as $35 a copy. Can you imagine being a game manufacturer and selling a game for 60, 70, $80 for the N64? All the 3 people that had N64s, right? And then you got to pay $35 to Nintendo for the privilege of publishing on their platform. I mean, it makes perfect sense. What the 3DO was trying to do was to get rid of that licensing fee or get it as low as possible. And it was really cool because there were a lot of people that were making games on DOS, right? And those games, they required you to have a $1,500 home computer system that most families did not at the time. And so they could port those things over to the 3DO, and all they had to pay was $3 per copy. And great, wonderful. The problem with the 3DO from my perspective was $500, $600, retail price. I can't get my mom or dad to say okay for that, even for a combination birthday Christmas, right? It's just too much. Whereas you could go a little bit cheaper, you could get a PlayStation or you could get a Saturn, and even those were way more expensive than $200 when they first came out. We rented a PlayStation the first time I actually played one, and we had it for 4 days, and I played Space Griffin VF9 and KIRK, the DNA Imperative. So just amazing games. No, not really. Space Griffin's pretty cool though. But like, yeah, getting together $600 for the 3DO was just too much of a thing. And then it turns out that most of the games on the 3DO were pretty bad. Like you could say that there was that one of the advantages, one of the positives of the Nintendo and Sega licensing systems was that they prevented shovelware from polluting the system, right? But at the same time, 3DO had some shovelware for sure, right? But it didn't get like shovelware of good games either. There was a limited number of really good games on the 3DO, and some of them were ports that were really badly done. Like I went and I kind of looked around through the 3DO.
But remember, you're talking to someone who had one for years. So,
yeah, sure, but you had a Neo Geo too and stuff like that. So you had a pretty good you had a pretty good way to at least check these things out and play with them. I just had no access to the thing. I had a friend back in Garden City who had a 3DO, and it was hit or miss. You would buy a game for it, and you had a 60% chance that it was just some kind of garbage, and you were like, oh, this is not fun or interesting, and the controls suck. But like, I went through a list of all the different 3DO games, and I found like 5 or 6 that are kind of interesting, at least to me, right? Like, one of the ones that I think is really worth like thinking about actually is Syndicate. You ever play Syndicate on DOS?
No.
Very, very fun bullfrog strategy game. You basically run you're in like the evil corpo world, and you're basically trying to take over the world as one of these little tiny corpos and growing up over time. You get agents, and the agents are like cyborgs, and you can order them around, and you have to, in order to expand your territory, you have to do some kind of mission that might involve assassinating someone or finding a thing and blowing it up or capturing some guy or something like that. And so it was a really cool kind of isometric strategy game that absolutely was unplayable without a mouse. And so if you had a 3DO version of Syndicate, good luck figuring those controls out, because I tried them. They were abysmal.
Well, you had to get the 3DO mouse.
Yeah.
But good luck finding one of them.
I don't know if the game is compatible with a 3DO mouse. Like, who knows?
Well, I didn't check that. I didn't have Syndicate on 3DO, but yeah, see, that's the thing. Not all the games could work with that mouse.
Right.
So you had to deal with that too.
Yeah. So for me, the 3DO was just out of reach as a price point when I was a kid. Nowadays I can grab ISOs and emulate it or whatever, and I could probably even go buy one on eBay or whatever and make sure that it's working and get it running. But like, at the same time, I looked through the whole library of games, and like, the number of games that I really felt like I really wanted to play was like, you could count them on my hands, kind of thing.
Well,
and I could be wrong. Like, there could be some really good games on the system that I just don't know about. Maybe you can educate me a little bit, but that's kind of been my perspective.
So at the end of the podcast, or when we get toward the end, we'll go through some of the games that I consider to be noteworthy, both for good and for majestically bad reasons. Yes. Yes. So I got a lot of enjoyment out of mine. Okay. And as we continue and progress through, I'll share these stories as to when I got my 3DO, what just the buying experience of that. I'll say it wasn't at a store that normally sold video games.
Yeah.
So that already tells you that it's treated like the Philips CDI as far as being an interactive multimedia station.
Okay. Before we get into it, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
How did you go about finding the games that you enjoyed on the 3DO? What was your because this is mostly pre-internet, right? So were
Yeah.
you just looking through gaming magazines, or did you have some
Yeah.
kind of way to figure this out?
So there were a couple. So, okay, there were a couple magazines, electronic games, but that's it. Not
Okay.
not
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 EGM.
Electronic Gaming Monthly, which didn't
Oh,
cover 3DO as much as you thought it would.
right.
Electronic Games, which then started to shift to PC gaming,
Yeah.
right? So that's where I first found out about the 3DO. And then Trip Hawkins gave an interview
Yeah.
in Electronic Games. And then, oh, well, sign me up. And then Diehard Game Fan
Mm-hmm.
would also talk some about the 3DO, especially the import games.
Yeah.
So, and then Yu Yu Hakusho, and then the Sailor Moon fighting game. And we'll talk about them. They're not the best games on earth.
No,
No.
I'm not surprised. A lot of those licensed games were very
But
close to shovelware.
they had
They
some
worked, though.
they had some notoriety back
Yeah.
then, and the graphics. So let's consider the time frame here.
Yeah.
So the 3DO was released in the United States in October of 1993.
Okay.
So
Right.
compare that to what else was out at that time. And then even in the 94.
Yeah.
So let's go to October of 1994 when the 32X was released.
Yeah.
And then in November or December of 94, in Japan, the Saturn and the PlayStation were released.
Mm-hmm.
So from then back to October of 1993, there was nothing like 3DO.
Yeah.
There was nothing like the graphics.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem, though, was there was a dearth of games. There was hardly anything available until, I would say, June or July of 1994.
Yeah.
And so, and as we get to the launch issues, and the launch issues is Trip Hawkins himself blames that as,
Yeah.
and the lack of coordination between all the parties. But in order to understand all of this, and you have to look at the licensing, because again, Trip Hawkins, founder and CEO until September of 1991 of Electronic Arts, but he still remained chairman of Electronic Arts.
Right.
He then became CEO in September of 1991
Mm-hmm.
of the 3DO company.
Yeah.
So he had this idea back in 1991 to create this. So, but it's important to note, as a third party, he knows how third parties should be treated.
Well,
So I figure Nintendo, a lot of this blame is laid at the feet of Mr. Mario. So I would say this. You remember, or you might have heard, or I don't know if you had a 2600, an Atari
yes.
2600.
Well, my uncle did. I played on. It wasn't a 2600. It was a 5200, I think. But yes, I played one.
Okay. So, the problems, like, and I know you've heard about the 2600 ET.
Yeah.
And its, general lack of playability, and
then being buried in a desert for 20 some years, and then being dug back up and sold at ridiculous prices to collectors. Yes.
Yes. So Nintendo used that and used the video game crash as pretext for giving these third parties a hard line that they have to follow, which is games must have a consistent look, not just a look of packaging,
Mm-hmm.
a look of outward presentation, like
Yeah.
physical presentation,
Yeah.
then the game can be censored for whatever reason,
Yeah.
and Nintendo could then allocate. And this is the thing. It's not just that Nintendo number one, in the mid
Right.
80s, they
Yeah.
collected $5 license fee
Okay.
to start,
That's not
$5.
too bad. Yeah.
But then when you realize that in the mid 80s, you had to buy the ROMs and the PC board with which the ROMs go on
Yep.
from Nintendo entirely.
Yep.
Now, this is in the United States. Now, what many don't know is in Japan, Hudson Soft, Namco, they were always able to buy their own ROMs.
Yeah.
Now, this is for the Famicom. And if you notice on Famicom cartridges, they could be red, they could be blue, yellow. They were not the same gray, ugly,
Yeah.
except for the Zelda games. See, but that's
Right.
Nintendo.
Yeah.
But so in the Famicom, Nintendo either didn't think about it at the time or they just allowed the licensees in Japan. But in the United States, it had to be the same. So you've got $5.
Yep.
And then we're talking 1986,
Mm-hmm.
9 to 14 a
Right.
piece.
Yeah.
Then you had to buy 10,000 of them to start.
Right.
So that's to start. And then what if MC Kids, right? Remember that McDonald's licensed game?
Sure.
Mick Kids or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay. You figured, okay, it's going to be a big hit.
Yep.
But if Nintendo themselves said, oh no, we're only going to give you 10,000 just because.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's worth noting that there's a couple of different things about the Famicom versus the Nintendo versus the NES that make this a little bit that kind of not nullify but mitigate some of this, right? Because
Okay.
the Famicom was always a top loader, and so like the cartridges looking different or having different colors was something that was nice and cool that you could do in Japan to be like, oh yeah, this cartridge looks cool, and you can see it you can pick it on the shelf. But the original NES was not a top loader; it was a front loader with the little hinge thing to close up behind it. And so, like, there's less of a reason to make colored cartridges for that. I guess you could say, right? You could make that argument at least.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Having to bottom out at 10,000 also is pretty hefty for a lot of games, I would imagine. Even back in the heyday of the NES. I mean, I remember being at like Toys R Us, right? And they would have that big wall of Nintendo games, all brand new. This was before used games and Funko Land and all that good stuff, right? There would just be a wall of brand new NES games at Toys R Us, and they'd be $50 a pop, maybe 55, depending, right? But some of them would sit there for years before anyone would buy them. Like, I remember seeing games that had come out 2 or 3 years earlier still up on that shelf at my local Toys R Us. You don't have to go hunting for it. You don't have to, send a letter to someone who's seen a copy at some place and have them buy it for you and mail it to you. None of that. Like, these games were so overproduced, even at the 10,000 level possibly, that some of them just sat on the shelf for years. And, by the time you got to Super Nintendo, things would fly off the shelves fast enough that, there was nothing, if you didn't go and grab Chrono Trigger the first year it was out, you would probably end up having to get it used later on. That's just kind of a very different thing, right? There was that same copy of Metal Gear 2 Snake's Revenge on the wall at my Toys R Us for 3 years. I remember seeing it over and over and over again, saying, I like that game a little bit, but it's not great. And I don't want to spend $50 on it, but there it is. And I could get it new if I wanted it, right? But anyway, it's like, I mean, I imagine that Nintendo would usually sell you more if your game actually sold and got good reviews, because then it promotes their brand. But, you know, they could play rough if you decided to do whatever. I'm sure there's cases where Nintendo decided to play hardball, although I don't know exactly what those were.
And that's the problem, is figuring out what those were, especially now as we're going 40 years on.
Yeah, and plus they were probably all behind these massive NDAs, right? So who knows? Right.
And so, but it's not even just allocation of cartridges either.
Right.
It's not merely the 10,000. It's not even merely allocation of cartridges.
Yeah.
There's a couple more things here. Number one, now it's number 4 or 5 at this point. You are limited to 5 releases per company.
Yeah, per company.
And so if Acclaim wanted to make a 6th game, they would have to open a subsidiary. And with Nintendo, it was LJN.
Mm-hmm.
Then for Sega, it was Arena and Flying Edge.
Okay.
I believe I have that. And they were the two for Sega, and then at least in the early 90s. And then with Acclaim and LJN, and then Konami had to open Ultra.
Right. Was it 5 games per company or 5 games per company per year? Because I read it was per company
year.
Per year.
It's five games per company per year. Yes.
So yeah, they had to even if they wanted to release 6 though, they would have to set up a subsidiary. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I remember Ultra. I remember Data East. I remember all these little companies that would produce a couple of games here and there. You know, what was the total number of NES games that ended up being produced over the system's life? Something like 700 just in the US.
Ooh, that's a good one. Let me figure that. But now there is another one.
Yeah.
There's another rule, the 6th rule, that Nintendo had to dispense with pretty quickly, at least by 1990, which was the 2-year exclusivity.
Right.
They couldn't get away with that with the rise of Electronic Arts and so forth by 1990.
Yeah.
But from 86 to 90, I mean, they got away with a lot, almost with impunity.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Master System was not a hit in the US. It had very low volume in general. So, you know, Nintendo was basically the only game in town in that generation in the US, right? In Japan, it was different, but you know, we definitely see different market effects having effects on both of these companies. Like the Saturn in the US versus the Saturn in Japan are completely different animals, right? Like the Saturn in the US had nothing. It had a few things here and there, but like if you get a Japanese Saturn instead, there are hundreds of really good games for you to play. Everything from, you know, action, strategy, you know, visual novel, all the fun stuff that you can get on the Saturn. You know, it's Japan only for the most part, but you know, and this same thing can happen in reverse, where the Nintendo market gets stuff that Japan doesn't get, like the Horde, right? Was a U.S. exclusive? I'm pretty sure. I don't know.
On 3DO. No, well, the Horde.
No, not on Saturn is the one I think I played. The one with what's his name from Growing Pains.
Oh yeah.
And then later on
it does it.
Not Spirited Away, but what's the he got into that those movies, the like the Christian
Fred Savage.
No. Shoot,
Well, it
I
wasn't
wish I could-
Jason Hervey.
No, it was like I think his name started with a K or something like that. He ended up being part of like the Rapture movies or something like that. There was a series of movies in like the late '90s.
Well, let me
about, like-
look.
Yeah,
But hold on. We'll give an answer. There's 677
yeah, that's a lot.
licensed U.S. releases of NES games.
Right.
677 licensed, 160 unlicensed. Yeah, unreal. The idea, though, the idea is that
Kirk Cameron.
yeah,
That's him.
Crud. Okay, yeah, him. Yeah, but the Horde on Saturn, that was more gory than the 3DO one. The 3DO one was actually tamer. But get this. I found this out the hard way.
Yeah.
Back in 1995.
Yeah.
It would, if you save a game,
Mm-hmm.
it will overwrite all your other saves.
For like all other games? Was it because it just didn't have enough internal memory?
No, because Crystal Dynamics, which was formed, it itself was a spinoff of the 3DO company.
Yeah.
In 92.
Okay.
They decided, well, if you're playing the Horde, then you're only playing the Horde and not Guardian War or, Oukoku no Grand Chef, which is a
Lucian's
fantastic
Quest.
game. Or Lucian's Quest or any of that. Oh, no, you're only playing the Horde. So it'll just erase the NVRAM.
That's horrifying.
Yeah. So they actually had to
You got to
send
get all
out.
your Kirk Cameron in one dose.
I mean, I got to
mainline that Kirk Cameron, until it's done, and then you can move on to another game.
Well, it's absurd. I mean, really. I mean, and so again, that's what we're dealing with. But now the 3DO, there's like 248 total releases.
Yeah.
But we're combining American, Japanese,
European markets where there were games that were in the US only, but not in Japan, and vice versa. So yeah.
Correct. So here's another thing though. So now knowing this, let's fast forward a little bit to the early SNES, to like the SNES era.
Yeah. Well, okay. So just to give you my perspective for a moment, Super Nintendo was amazing up through like 96. And so like it was pretty easy to just buy more SNES games rather than buy a new console up through then. Like we're talking Final Fantasy VI, we're talking Chrono Trigger, we're talking all the classic JRPGs that I was enamored with when I was a kid. So like, the 3DO in that sense was maybe too early because there were still plenty of life left in the 16-bit consoles at that point.
No, you're right about that. Those games were tremendous games. And then look at what even we didn't get, but we're still like Tales of Fantasia.
Yep.
Star Ocean.
Yep.
Games like that.
I mean, Tactics Ogre.
Tactics Ogre is another one.
Yeah, amazing stuff. Like amazing writing, amazing gameplay, graphics that were pixel graphics, sprites, but still really, really nice.
And the sound.
Yeah, and the sound too.
The music in some of these games, Tales of Fantasia, unbelievable. Oh, yeah. So, but the cost, again, for Namco to purchase ROMs from Nintendo for what are now 48 megabit games.
Yep.
Well, at that point, the cost was around maybe $30 back then.
Oof, that's painful.
And $30 per cartridge. So they, a lot of these third-party companies are starting to get tired of this. So, well, they weren't the only company. Well, Namco, in a way, did start it. And you got to go to Atari games. That's right. Because it just ends up that way, that Atari games decided we are going to do something about this.
Yeah.
But what constitutes the entity known as Atari Games?
Okay, that's a good question. Yeah.
So look at, in 1984, Atari Incorporated kind of split in two.
Yeah.
Where you had Atari Corporation. Now that's Jack Tramuel's company.
Okay.
And so Jack Tramuel purchased it. Or he purchased it and he assumed the parent company's debt, a large amount of debt.
Okay.
And in that, he got the rights to all the home computer stuff, like the ST.
Yeah.
So Atari ST
like
stuff, 2600, 5200, 7800.
Right.
And had the rights to the name Atari.
Okay. Yeah.
Period. For anything that has to do with consumer.
Okay.
Which would be computers and home consoles. So then Atari Inc. So now Atari Corporation is Jack Tramuel's.
Okay.
Atari Inc. ended up being renamed.
Yeah.
They ended up being renamed Atari Games, and they constituted the coin-op, the arcade division.
Oh, okay. All right.
So as they went here, Namco is like, well, hey, we want in because you made awesome games.
Yeah.
So let's hook up. So Atari, what had owned Atari Inc., which would be still called Warner Interactive.
Yeah.
They had 40%. Namco has 60%.
All right.
This is 1985.
Yeah.
Well, Namco already in 1 year, that's all it took. They're like, well, we need to get out of this thing.
Yeah.
But instead, Hideyuki Nakajima, lead engineer at Namco, decided, hey, let me try to run it. I'll get a group, meaning Nakajima will get a group of employees.
Yeah.
And we will buy a third of Namco's stake. So an overall stake of 20%.
Okay. Okay.
So what it is, it's 20% Hideyuki Nakajima and his employee group.
Yep.
20%, Namco 40.
Yeah.
And Warner Interactive 40.
Okay.
Okay. So now that constitutes Atari Games.
Yeah, the coin-op side.
And that's and that's still the coin-op side.
Yeah.
Well, then they thought, well, we have all these licenses. We've got Gauntlet, right? We got Pac-Man and its derivatives. We have Clax, right?
Yep.
We have RBI Baseball. Let's leverage this. So yeah, they went to Nintendo and they went to Sega and then they realized, we don't have the rights to the Atari name.
Right.
Even though we're called Atari Games.
Right.
Because it's Tramuel's corporation
that owns the rights to use the name Atari for games specifically. Oof.
Yes. Therefore, they had to create a new subsidiary. And on December 21st, 1987, they created Tengen.
Okay. And we all remember Tengen for the NES cartridges that were a little bit funky shaped, but had some good games in them. Tengen games. Let's see. The ones that I've played, I personally own a copy of Alien Syndrome, and that is a very good game. very fun. And then I played Afterburner, and Afterburner was a fantastic game. I mostly played Afterburner not on a console, but on the giant arcade machine that would rock back and forth. That was awesome. Back in the day. And then I also played Shinobi and Vindicators and Gauntlet on the NES using Tengen cartridges, which, as a kid, you didn't understand all that stuff. So it was just like, well, the cartridge is a little funky shaped, but it doesn't work any differently. So let's play the game, right? And as long as it wasn't some kind of, shovelware garbage like The Adventures of Captain Comic, you could have a lot of fun.
And so Tengen, by licensing those and porting those Sega arcade games over to the NES.
Yep.
And they did a good job on Alien Syndrome. Wonderful game. Gauntlet was pretty good. That's their own, but still, that was good. And then Clax, and then they actually had a lot of good quality games in the late 80s.
Yeah.
And I will just give an overview, and then we'll go back to Tengen, because some might wonder, well, what happened to Atari Corporation, and then Atari Games,
right? And
then we'll hit hard on, because it's important. This lawsuit sets the stage for everything.
Okay.
So Tengen again formed December 21st, 1987.
Right.
Well, in 1994, Warner, the parent company, merged with Time Life.
Right.
So now they're Time Warner Interactive.
Right.
Okay. And then they bought out Namco. So now it's Nakajima's group with 20%.
Yeah.
And Time Warner Interactive with 80%.
Okay.
And then 2 years later, they were able to sell the entire thing to Williams, which is WMS Gaming.
Okay.
Which included Midway, right?
I'd never heard of Williams Gaming, so this is news to me.
Yeah, WMS, and they did a lot of pinball, right? So they were the kings of pinball.
All right.
And Midway was Bally Midway, and then 2 years later, WMS spins off Midway.
Okay.
And this Atari Games was a part of that.
Right.
In 1998. And then in 2003, it was disbanded.
Okay. Wow.
So that's what happened on the Tengen side.
Right.
So on the Atari Corporation side, well, that's another podcast. Atari Jaguar, baby.
Yep.
And the CD.
Yep.
Which, if you see, now I'm burping, because that's what the CD drive made me do. When you try to tap it, and then that clamshell on the top of the Jaguar CD was so flimsy, that you could break it. There we go. You could break it. That's what Blue Lightning, playing that on there. Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm just about ready to lose it right now. So, and I am. It's unbelievable. So in 1996, it was all she wrote for the Jaguar and Jaguar CD. Well, in 1998, and we're talking about this not just a little bit later, but on another podcast, Hasbro, and Hasbro's early foray into gaming.
Right.
But this was much later than that. This is 1998. Hasbro purchases Atari Corporation.
Okay.
Then in 2001, Infogrames, who we might know them, they're a European developer.
Yeah.
And they purchased the Atari Corporation from Hasbro, and then Infogrames renamed itself Atari SA.
Okay.
And that's where it is today. So
much movement.
There's quite a bit of movement, and if you don't know about the split, and if you don't know about the way the deals were between the companies, where Atari Games and Tengen, its subsidiary, was not even allowed to use the Atari name on home console stuff. If you didn't know that, you would get confused.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So what sets the stage for Tengen and its reverse engineering?
Mm-hmm.
Many don't know, but in 1998, and that's what we're here to elaborate, there was a giant ROM shortage.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened across all of console gaming, where 1 megabit chips, 512 kilobit ROM chips, there was so much demand and factories just didn't have the capacity.
Yeah.
In 1988, there were shortages across all. Sega was ordering. NEC with its Hue cards, they were ordering. Nintendo was ordering. And Atari with its 7800, Atari Corporation, with its 7800, they were ordering. So these same ROMs, we're not even talking about the PC boards yet. We're just talking about the ROMs. So there was drastic ROM shortages. So Tengen couldn't even get the ROMs.
Right.
And then when they could, they had to buy them through Nintendo.
Yep.
Well, they didn't like that.
Of course not.
They didn't like that. So, and they didn't like the 5 game per year limit either.
Yeah.
So they went about making some changes. So the Nintendo, I don't know if you've read up on that 10 NES lockout chip, Rudy.
I know I've heard of it, but I don't know that much about it. It's been a long time since I read about it.
So it's a chip called the number 10, 10 NES.
Yeah.
What it is it's a lockout chip where if you did not buy ROMs or the PC board itself, and usually it's a PC board, there's a chip on there and it checks for it.
Yeah.
And if it fails the check, it won't play the game.
Right.
So Tengen had a project codenamed Rabbit. Oh yeah. And they set about reverse engineering the chip. Okay. Well, other people who are interested in making, at this point now, they're unlicensed games.
Yeah.
See, if you're licensed, well, then the boards that you order from Nintendo, they contain that chip.
Right.
Because you're licensed, and so what other companies did, they would send a negative voltage spike to that 10 NES chip.
Yeah, yeah. And you could trick it.
Yes, and you can trick it. On the system side, you could send a negative voltage spike. Well, Tengen did not want. They claimed that they're worried about like unnecessary repairs and frying systems. So they set about re-engineering that chip. Well, they were on their way to getting there. Nakajima was already, and his team, they were very close to re-engineering that chip on their own. But someone else decided to take a shortcut.
Oh boy.
You know where this is going. I mean, it's just out of control. I mean, I might as well puff a little more after I tell you this. They filed an affidavit with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office.
Yeah.
And they told the USPTO that we're Tengen and we're filing a lawsuit against Nintendo, and therefore for discovery, we need all the documents related to the patent on that 10 NES lockout chip.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, and they got it, and then they were able to easily reverse engineer that chip.
I mean, if you have the blueprint, it's not even reverse engineering at that point.
Bingo. That's the exactly. So, and that right there played into what would end up happening to them a few years later.
Right.
So they announced in December of 1988, 1 year after formally being organized as a subsidiary, that we are releasing games and we're going to just load up on all the releases.
Yeah.
They did legitimately release RBI Baseball and Gauntlet and Pac-Man.
Yeah.
So Tengen had 3 legitimate releases at first. Well, then in December of 88, they decided, well, we've figured out this chip, and so we're going to re-release those 3 games, but now they're unlicensed, and that's where you see the special Tengen shells. Because if you're not buying the cartridges and the PC boards and the ROMs from Nintendo,
right?
Well, you can't use their shells. You have to use your own cartridge shells, and that's why you have the black Tengen cartridge shells.
Yeah, with the funny angles on them and stuff too.
with that slanted angle on the end of it. Yeah. So they did that, but it took Nintendo about 10 months, 9 or 10 months for Nintendo to file a countersuit.
Okay.
It was September or October or something of 1989.
Yeah.
When Nintendo formally filed a countersuit. And they were, whether they're organizing or trying to find proof of patent infringement.
Yeah.
Well, which they summarily did. So Tengen released in this period from December of 88 to when the lawsuit was filed, and then they released 20 games.
Yeah.
But that's where you had Alien Syndrome, Afterburner, Clax, and Tetris.
Right.
But the Tetris, the Tengen Tetris, that's another story. I'm not even sure about getting into that. That's maybe for another episode.
I've heard of it because Tetris was also a licensed game too. There was a licensed version of it as well. So I've heard stories. I've never played the Tengen version of Tetris, but like I've heard stories that it was better in some ways than the licensed one. So I don't know. Kind of a fun idea to talk about later, some other time maybe.
It actually was quite a bit better. And part of when they filed a lawsuit, Nintendo also filed one with Tetris.
Yeah.
And that one Nintendo easily won. They wanted it in short order.
Yeah.
So you have all of this. You have Tengen falsely claiming that they filed a lawsuit. Now, Tengen would eventually file a lawsuit, right? But they had not filed it when they sent that affidavit to the Patent and Trademark Office. There were no lawsuits outstanding.
Okay.
That's where everything goes wrong with them. So you have this, in fact, and it was actually November of 89. So December of 88, right?
Yeah.
When Tengen said, we've got all these games now and we're releasing them, Tengen filed a preemptive lawsuit.
Okay.
In December of 1988.
Yeah.
Well, in November of 89, Nintendo formally files a countersuit about patent infringement.
Yeah.
And Tengen was claiming that Nintendo violated the Sherman Antitrust Act. Okay. Amongst other things. Well, Nintendo, they had, believe it or not, this is unbelievable. I keep saying unbelievable because the story is.
Yeah.
Nintendo admitted that there were several ways to circumvent that lockout chip.
Oof, yeah.
They admitted that in open court. And yes, so in the Court of Appeals,
Right.
they admitted this. And then, such as the negative voltage spike, they said this. So Tengen didn't have to file a false affidavit with the Patent and Trademark Office. They didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right there, and I don't know if you remember the games like Exodus and them, that Wisdom Tree.
Yeah, the Bible games. That was another set of notable non-licensed NES games. I never played any of them, but I've seen footage. So
Exodus. So I did play Exodus, and it wasn't bad, right? I mean but
yeah,
they figured out how to reverse engineer from this lawsuit.
right.
Because now these documents are filed in open court. So they figured it out from this lawsuit. Okay.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening, they ended up settling years later in 1994 was the last. This thing dragged out to 94.
Yeah.
And they had to pay Nintendo damages and use some IP and so forth. But the Court of Appeals said if Tengen had not filed the false affidavit,
Yeah.
it would have been fair use.
Huh. Wow.
That if they had not filed the false affidavit and they let Nakajima finish
Mm-hmm.
with his reverse engineering,
Yeah.
it would have been legal.
Wow.
And Nintendo would not have had standing to sue.
Right.
So you've got all of this. Electronic Arts and Trip Hawkins is watching.
Yep.
And he's going like this.
And Electronic Arts was one of the companies that was getting hurt by these licensing requirements too. There was a bunch of EA games on Genesis and Super Nintendo and stuff, and they probably were angry that a company as big as them was getting bled out by Nintendo or bled out by Sega for these absurd licensing fees.
So Trip Hawkins, in your research and as well, you could see that he's kind of wily. He's cunning. He is very smart and is trying to plan several moves ahead.
Yeah.
So he's looking at all of this. Now Electronic Arts is making games for a lot of platforms that utilize the Motorola 68,000.
Yep.
Already. So we're talking the ST, the Amiga, Macintosh, right?
Yeah.
So he thought, let's do Sega Genesis because they have a 68K processor as well.
Yeah.
And then he actually said this, Trip Hawkins said this. They waited for the US Genesis release.
Oh.
They saw that the Mega Drive
Mm-hmm.
did not have any lockout when it was first released.
Yeah.
And then when they saw in late 1989 that the US Genesis upon release did not have a lockout chip.
Yeah.
They thought, well, we're ready to go. We can make games.
Yeah.
But first, Sega didn't have their dev kits in a row.
Oh,
it was hard to get it. It was difficult to get a dev kit.
Sure.
Well, they managed to get a hold of one.
Okay.
And they had two teams.
Mm-hmm.
One was disassembling the hardware and taking extensive notes.
Yeah.
The other, and I don't know, I keep holding these hands up like I'm a crab, right? I'm like, or holding castanets. But The other team was documenting and creating the development tool chain.
Okay.
They reverse engineered the Sega dev kit.
Okay.
And if you go to their museum, the EA museum, they have the original reverse engineered Sega Genesis dev kit in their museum out in the open.
Wow. Where is their museum? California somewhere?
It might be their headquarters.
Okay.
They might have a little place where they have kind of a museum.
All right. Nice. I never knew about that.
Yeah. But it's on open display there. I mean, they're proud of this. They're proud that they did this. So here's the main issue. They made a few games that were unlicensed because Trip Hawkins was not dealing. They did not want to do with Nintendo. They did not want to deal with Sega in the same manner.
Right.
So they were not doing the 5 game per year deal that Sega was trying to enforce.
Yeah.
They did not want to do the minimum cartridge buys. They did not want the censorship.
Right.
So Populous, Budokan, Zany Golf, and Onslaught were unlicensed. Okay, so they were unlicensed. So Trip Hawkins went to Sega and a couple times, most notably in June of 1990.
Yeah.
So June of 1990, he said, listen, and he literally threw his hands up like this.
Yeah.
And he said, listen, we're Electronic Arts. If you don't give us favorable terms and lower the cost of these royalty fees, we will license how we reverse engineered your system.
Yeah.
We will just tell everyone how to do it.
Yeah.
Sega was furious, but then Sega capitulated. And so Sega then allowed, this is what they allowed Electronic Arts to do. They allowed them to buy their own ROMs and cartridge shells.
Yep.
In fact, a woman named Nancy Fong came up with the idea to put the yellow tab in the cartridge shells.
Yeah, I remember those. I think my copy of Starflight has one.
Yes. So every Electronic Arts game has that yellow tab on Sega Genesis. So they were allowed to get their own ROMs and cartridge shells. They were allowed
cartridge shells,
Yes. They were allowed to approve their own games. Sega did not have final approval of EA games. EA could do it themselves.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
That's handing it over.
It's unprecedented. Honestly, it's unprecedented, this level of capitulation. And they could release as many games as they wanted per year.
Okay.
Good. No limit.
Very nice. It's a good deal.
So,
right?
It is. So William Murray Hawkins III, and that's why he's called Trip, because it's the third triple.
Yep.
He got him where Trip Hawkins put Sega in a bind.
Yeah.
Well, Sega said, you know what we're going to do? What we will do? Okay, EA, you did this to us.
Yeah.
Well, now we are licensing you, Electronic Arts, if I'm Sega.
Yeah.
But we will make sure that no one else can try this. So in January of 1991, they released another version of the Genesis. It's not the Genesis 2 that came out later in 93.
Okay.
No. It looked, from the outset like the same Model 1 Genesis.
Okay.
But if you notice on the top, if you have an early Genesis, it said high definition graphics
Yes.
above the cartridge slot.
Right.
Well, if you have a Model 1 and
Yeah.
it does not say that,
Okay.
then you have the one made from January 91 to late 1993. And that contains the trademark security system.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. Now, this is different than region locking. Now,
Yeah.
it's still region locked, right? But that's a separate issue.
Sure.
So January 1991, they have the trademark security system. Okay. Well, guess who decides, hey, we are going to bust this.
Mm-hmm.
And some people call it a Accolade. If you use it in English, I will give my dear friend Rudy an accolade. Whatever you want to, however you want to pronounce it. They decided we are going to will reverse engineer that TMSS chip.
Yeah.
So in January 1991, they start reverse engineering that chip.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to just call them Accolade as opposed to Accolade. And literally, as soon as they reverse engineered it and started coming out with unlicensed games, because now they're unlicensed and they're sold under the label Ballistics.
Oh, wow.
So if you bought a game where the company name was Ballistics,
mm-hmm.
that's unlicensed.
What did they release under that label?
Oh,
I don't think I've ever seen one of these carts.
Yeah. So, there were games like Rolling Thunder.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I've heard of Rolling Thunder, but I never played it. So I've never seen a cartridge in the wild.
So let me get a list of that. Yeah, because a game like a Hardball, the baseball series. So you have, so it was like Hardball and I remember Turrican. Turrican, Super Off-Road, Star Control.
Star Control, all right, yeah.
And I'm sorry, I don't know why I thought Onslaught was an EA game. See, that's where my mind is going. I'm thinking yellow tabs here. I'm thinking, I hope Bubsy's not one of the unlicensed games. But no, Bubsy was an unlicensed game. Yeah, wow. See, so so you have Bubsy, Mike Ditka football, Universal Soldier, Winter Challenge, something else, Warp Speed, Power Challenge,
wow,
Pele, and the original game that got them their original unlicensed was Ishido, Way of the Stones.
Wow, okay.
And then Double Dragon or Genesis.
All right.
And then the Duel, and then 2 hardball games. So those are the Accolade games.
They had Universal Soldier. They gotta get that Van Damme money.
I mean, it never ceases to amaze me.
Gotta capitalize on all the little kids that were watching Universal Soldier back in the day. Little side story. I was down in California with some of my cousins, and one of my cousins decided that we were going to go watch Universal Soldier. And I was like 6.
Oh, come on.
So that was like the first R-rated movie that I ever saw was Universal Soldier. And like my mom was pissed.
Now, I know, I'm thinking even at 6 years old, you would have had some poignant comments on the acting.
It was just an action movie that it's like, Jean-Claude Van Damme doesn't speak English very well, and there's action in the movie, and then he's like doing martial arts naked or something. I don't remember it that well. I think I've only seen that movie one time. It was when I hardly remember the darn thing, but like it was just funny that like of all the things my cousin could have taken me to go see, he's like, "Let's go see Universal Soldier." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever."
Incredible. That at least you didn't see the Universal Soldier with Bill Goldberg in it. I think that was Universal Soldier 3 or something.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
yeah, that movie didn't need sequels, and if the sequels were not, a lot better, then not worth it, I think.
How many sequels were better than the original? They're not that many.
I mean, there are lots of like trilogies where the second one is often said to be better than the first one, for instance. But like, I mean, Terminator 2 was, I think, more of a crowd pleaser than Terminator 1, even though you could definitely make the case that they're different types of movies. But that's getting off into the weeds, and maybe we don't need to do that.
That's one of the good examples of that. But
yeah,
there are not many like that.
Right.
But Accolade also, they thought, well, Sega's forcing us to pay $15 per cartridge.
Oof. Yeah.
On top of the royalty.
Oof.
So they didn't want to do that. So Sega filed a lawsuit in 1992.
Yeah.
And this was adjudicated pretty quickly, though. And the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals said that because Accolade properly reverse engineered the TMSS chip without original documentation. They used decompilers. See, Accolade used decompilers and had source code printouts that I can only imagine that dot matrix printer burning them up.
Oh man.
Right? I mean,
and that special paper with the holes in the side that you got to pull off. Yeah.
You remember those?
I had one of those printers. It was, it was surprisingly reliable. But that was
very reliable. Yeah.
But that was back in the late 80s, so
Oki Data made great dot matrix printers. So the Ninth Circuit said that this constituted fair use.
Right.
And this is actually a precedent-setting decision that to this day, other lawsuits have to abide by this precedent. Sega versus Accolade.
Okay.
But nonetheless, when it was all said and done, even though Accolade legitimately reverse engineered that TMSS chip, Sega ended up with, this was a Pyrrhic victory, okay?
Yeah.
So Sega said, well, okay, we will license you, and you won't have to pay an exorbitant fee for the cartridges.
Right.
But you will have to release 5 games on a Sega platform. So that would be Game Gear, right? Sega CD.
Yeah.
And the Genesis at the time.
Okay.
You have to release 5 for every 1 on another platform.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yikes.
So if you wondered why there was a bunch of garbage coming out of that company.
Yep.
And now you know why.
Okay.
Because it was to satisfy the terms of the settlement. Even though the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in Accolade's favor, Accolade still wanted to sell games, on the Sega platforms.
Right.
So you have these things. What's interesting about that TMSS chip? So remember when EA originally had the unlicensed games? So you have Budokan, right? And you had Populous and like Zany Golf. Well, they won't work on a Genesis made after January 91.
Okay, wow.
So EA did release, EA re-released Populous. I know that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they re-released Budokan or Zany Golf to contain the chip.
Right.
So those who have it today, they might have problems with it. So all of this, and we have to take a drink for this because all of this sets the stage
Yeah.
for what we are delving right into, the 3DO. It all sets, and I still didn't even take a drink, but it's that important. It's out of control.
Oh, man.
So Trip Hawkins was already getting his team together. He took a lot of people from the Amiga world. So you have
Right.
Amiga product development people, Amiga engineers, most notably Dave Needle, RJ Michael. They actually set the specifications for what would become the 3DO interactive multiplayer.
Yeah.
So the 3DO company, again, was formed, and we touched on this earlier, September of 1991, September 12th of 1991. But the hardware specs were not finalized until early 1993.
Wow. That's so long to just bleed money, for a company.
And they did.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, Trip Hawkins himself stepped down as CEO of Electronic Arts.
Right.
He remained chairman, but he stepped down as CEO to be CEO of the 3DO company.
Right.
So,
and for KIRK, well, maybe I'm getting ahead of us here, but stop me if 3DO, the company, made some games before the 3DO hardware came out, or am I wrong about that?
Other way around.
Okay.
So those games we'll touch on in a little bit. Games like Army Men.
Yeah.
When they released games like the Might and Magic and Heroes of Might and Magic, we'll touch on them later. They released them after the divestiture of 3DO intellectual property.
Okay, interesting.
So, but we'll get to that momentarily. Yeah, so let's think of what Trip Hawkins has witnessed with all of this licensing fiasco, looking at the Tengen lawsuit and looking at the Accolade lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted a system that was amenable to third parties. He wanted a real forward-thinking system.
Yeah.
And he got bit by the CDI bug, right? Because everything had to be interactive.
Right.
I watched a video, and this is a video given to hardware manufacturers and software developers only.
Mm-hmm.
This was in May of 93.
Okay.
And he was talking about cable set-top boxes that had a 3DO player.
Yeah.
And talking about online gaming with a built-in modem from AT&T.
Yep.
He was talking about these things with 3DO in 1993.
Yeah.
Well, they had signed a deal with Advanced RISC machines.
Right.
They used to be Acorn RISC machines.
Yeah.
For those across the pond, you know about Acorn, you know about the Archimedes, and you know about...
Well, so the game I was thinking of that was 3DO before the 3DO hardware was actually called Starfighter. And it was an Acorn game originally. But it was released in the US under the title Starfighter 3000 for DOS, as well as the 3DO eventually. But I'm not sure what the order of operations there was, because that was an interesting game.
It's a great game, by the way. So let's look up just to make sure that we have, and it was Starfighter. It was Starfighter. Yeah. So, and it was released on the Archimedes in 94.
Right.
And it came to 3DO a year later, and then PC a year after that.
Okay, yeah.
So on the Acorn Archimedes in 1994, and which contained the ARM chips, and that's the same ARM we all know and love today that's in modern devices.
Yep.
The same ARM is making chips and made chips and computers, but we're concentrating on the main CPUs for the Acorn Archimedes.
Yep.
And then the 3DO. Yes. So the 3DO had a 12.5 megahertz. It was an ARM 60 CPU, 32-bit, and it had a double. Now you remember this. You remember this double speed CD-ROM drive.
Oh yeah, the 2X.
And if you've had a system, a console that had a single speed,
yep.
Oh, it was trash. Oh,
I mean, yeah, they were painful. I mean, what was the speed of the original PlayStation?
I think it was double.
Okay.
The ones that were single.
Yeah.
The original Neo Geo CD was a single.
Okay,
in fact, really both of them were.
Right.
The CDZ just had more cache.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Sega / Mega CD was single speed.
Mm-hmm.
The original TurboGrafx CD was single speed, but I think the Turbo Duo, PC Engine Duo, I think that was double.
Okay.
But so right there, that's important. But then this had 2 megabyte. Yes, it was 2 megabyte of RAM.
Which was a lot for a console back in the day. I mean,
yes,
PCs, DOS PCs might have 16, but like, the none of the other consoles had 2 megabytes of RAM.
Or 8, right? I mean, remember, so as this was being finalized in 1993, this is the era of Sims, right? I mean, we're not even talking DIMMs here.
Right.
We're talking Sims, 72-pin Sims, and do you remember Comp USA?
Yeah.
You remember going there and I remember going there, buying an ISA, an ISA expansion card to fit more memory in a 386.
Yep.
And it was literally like $400 to get the card and to get 8 megabyte of Sims.
Yeah.
8 1 megabyte Sims.
Right.
And that was $400.
Yeah, stuff was crazy back then.
It was crazy, but we thought we were getting a great deal, right?
Yeah.
And this was 1995 or late 94.
Yeah.
So imagine in mid 93, you're finalizing the specifications. So you've got 2 megabyte of RAM, 1 megabyte of VRAM.
Wow, that's a lot for them.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So other engineers have blamed the high cost of manufacture on this amount of RAM.
Yeah.
That it was almost unnecessary.
Well, plus they couldn't dump the consoles in hopes of making the money back from games.
So, and that's the other issue that Trip Hawkins later set the failure of the 3DO at the feet of your point, which is he looked at Electronic Arts. Well, we're a software company.
Yeah.
We don't manufacture. Now I'm getting hot under the collar because now we're talking about the 3DO consortium.
Right.
That's right. But by the way, what do you think 3DO stands for?
Well, I've heard different things, right? When I was looking stuff up for this, I heard that some people have claimed that it stands for $3 only, right? I've also heard that it was just that the original plan by whoever came up with the name was actually just that it was a pun on audio, video, 3DO. So, it's very hard to confirm these things these days, but those are the two different versions of that story that I heard.
So originally, Trip Hawkins thought 3D optics.
Yeah.
Because in his mind, he was thinking in 1991 terms that when he finally would get a system going, that it would be like the virtual reality. They were still talking about virtual reality, which that's another episode that we've got to do. Oh, boy. Oh. So then it's audio, video, 3DO.
Yeah.
And then the $3 only, it was either a happy coincidence or Trip Hawkins originally planned the royalty to be $3.
Yeah,
and it just made
the whole thing stick together.
But they are all correct.
Okay.
So they all are correct as to the name. So this is the consortium. Okay. So he first went to Sony.
Yeah.
And he asked Sony. So this is mid 1993. Sony fell out of favor with Nintendo, or Nintendo fell out of favor with Sony.
Yeah.
Sony wanted control over manufacture of the Super Nintendo CD all-in-one unit.
Right.
That would have been called the PlayStation.
Right.
But they could not come to terms. Sony wanted better licensing terms. And this is important. And I will speak this from the mountaintops here. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
You remember the Sony Imagesoft games like Hook?
Yes.
Last Action Hero?
Yeah.
Cliffhanger, all that crap. Well, they know what it's like. They knew what it was like to be a third party. So they're learning, well, how would we treat third parties?
Yeah.
Well, they know they didn't want to be treated like Nintendo was treating them, even as a hardware partner on this Super Nintendo CD.
Yeah.
But the all-in-one unit would be called the PlayStation.
Right.
So they're still in the midst of that. And they're like, well, we don't know.
Right.
So then they asked Sega. And the Nintendo of America, or Nintendo, see, it's Mario is jumping in my ear and Sonic's going to come out of the other. Sega of America.
Yeah.
CEO Tom Kalinske confirmed this.
Okay.
He said that it is true. 3DO came to Sega and asked about manufacturing the 3DO.
Yeah.
And Sega said, this is what by what Tom Kalinske said, we're interested in this.
Yeah.
But it is just too expensive. We don't know if we can get the cost down enough to where the public will accept it.
Right.
So they ultimately passed on it. Matsushita, which they marketed products under the great name of Panasonic.
Yep.
And they eventually later, they just renamed themselves Panasonic. They said, oh, absolutely, we'll get in on this. We own Universal Pictures. Believe it or not, they own the movie studio, Universal Pictures.
Okay.
Matsushita did in 1990.
Wow. All right. Wow.
And our investment is awful. We need something to either leverage this or turn it around. So we'll manufacture the 3DO for you.
All right. Yeah.
So, okay. Number one, Goldstar.
Yeah.
which that was LG, but they were marketed similarly to how Matsushita had Panasonic as their brand that they're marketing.
Yeah.
LG had Goldstar as the
Right.
brand that they're marketing. They said absolutely. And not only that, but we will release it in South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
We will make the 3DO number one in South Korea.
Okay.
So that's number two. Sanyo signed up. And Sanyo's was interesting. Their 3DO, the CD tray is like a laptop tray.
Mm-hmm.
You click, you firmly press the CD into the tray.
Yeah.
It's like a laptop tray. So
Sure.
AT&T signed up
Oh,
where
wow.
they had a modem.
Yeah.
And it would be sold with a built-in modem. So that's 4. Creative Labs. Creative Labs said, okay, we'll make an add-in ISA card, an ISA card,
Mm-hmm.
to where if you have a 386
Mm-hmm.
DX,
Yeah.
and I think you need the floating point coprocessor, you can play 3DO games on your Windows 3.1 computer. Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Huh.
And that was called the Creative Labs 3DO Blaster.
Okay.
I remember seeing them. Yeah.
I never saw one before. That's really cool.
It is. I thought it was cool. And then Samsung, number 6, they never released theirs. So, and Toshiba was number 7. And then you had the venture capital firm.
Mm-hmm.
So now this is the consortium. We're leading up to the IPO of the 3DO company. Because they went public. That this is still Silicon Valley here.
Yeah, yeah.
So that they went public.
Of course.
So out of the hardware manufacturers, the ones that release systems, of course, Matsushita, Panasonic, Goldstar-LG, Sanyo, Creative Labs.
Yep.
They released theirs. AT&T never did. That was a prototype, a finished prototype. They never did. Toshiba never did. And Samsung ultimately never did.
Do you know what modem AT&T was going to put into the 3DO?
They had a special trade name for it. So that's an excellent question. They had a special technology for this modem that, and what's sad is, when they decided that we will not make this 3DO,
right,
they entirely dropped out of ever doing anything with games ever again.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, this thing was quite interesting. Yeah, and it was meant for networked games. That's what.
Sure. Well, the reason I'm asking is because I think it was 99 was the Dreamcast, the American Dreamcast, right? And that was notable. One of the reasons it was notable because it had a 56K modem packed in to the hardware, right? In the US it did. So we're talking 1993 versus 1999, and that was kind of the first mainstream system that had a modem in it. So the 3DO was kind of way ahead of its time. I'm just wondering, was it like a 14.4 or something like that? What was the average internet speed back then? Because I think I had a compact computer in 96, and that had a 56K modem too. So were they still? But then I had like a Commodore with like the 400 baud or something like that from back in the mid or early 80s. I'm just wondering where AT&T was at the time.
So in the mid 90s, it would have been a 9600.
Okay.
I'm getting more information. What's important to note about this,
yeah,
is AT&T was trying to set up the Edge 16 online service
Yeah.
that eventually would have been, I think eventually was released as X-Band,
Okay.
that eventually did come out on the
Mhm.
Sega Genesis.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But AT&T bought a 20% stake in Sierra Online.
Ooh, yeah. All right.
And that's where they were looking at making networked games.
Yeah.
So they purchased a 20% stake in 93.
And Sierra was
And
big back then. Like Sierra was huge.
they were huge. They
Like
had,
not just like game development, but also game publishing. They published a lot of games for other developers. Like a lot of people probably don't remember this, but the original release of Valve's Half-Life was by Sierra.
it was.
Yeah, because I
It
still have the
was.
disc and the jewel case, and it's labeled a Sierra game, and it has the Sierra, the install shield, Sierra branded install shield thing, and all that good stuff. I still remember installing that and trying to get it to friggin' work on my computer, and discovering I needed a 3D accelerator.
Good times.
Yeah, when you could get it to work, it was good times.
Oh boy. So the modem was called Voice Span.
Okay,
That's what their trademarked name for this modem for the 3DO was called, Voice Span, SPAN, Voice Span. So, but once that fell through, they just got out of the market altogether. And then in 1996, they sold that 20% stake in Sierra. They sold it to AOL.
Uh-huh.
Yes. That's what happened to that deal.
Good old America Online.
Yeah. Horrible. And just like my forehead is getting bigger by the minute, so is dealing with the entirety of the launch of this thing. Although we have to talk about the IPO, because of course this is Silicon Valley. Okay. So there has to be an initial public offering.
Of course.
Okay. So the initial public offering was on May 3rd, 1993.
All right.
$15 a share.
Okay.
Well, it went up to like 20 pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And it stayed there for quite a while.
All right, good.
And so there was considerable hype about the 3DO and what's going on and what it's doing. And then Trip Hawkins immediately ripped on the Atari Jaguar and the Philips CDI. He said the Jaguar is not really a 64-bit system, which it's not. And then he said the Philips CDI doesn't do anything well. I'm paraphrasing, but he said basically that the CDI doesn't do anything well, which, having owned both of them, he's right.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's right.
There's a very small number of playable, decent games on the CDI. And, whereas for the 3DO, we're talking two hands. For the CDI, we're down to one hand.
Missing some fingers, right? That's
Maybe.
CDI.
I mean, you could argue that like the 3 Zelda games, and there was like Mario Hotel, and then there was that Doom clone that I played that one time. There were a couple more, but like we're talking single digits here. So
our podcast compatriot,
yes,
you've seen him, Justin.
Yep.
Now let him know. Now his favorite though is Shaolin's Road on CDI. That is his all-time favorite. I know when he would come over, he would just say, "I cannot wait. Please, can I play Shaolin's Road?"
I don't know. My best CDI memory is I think it was you, me, and Kevin, and we were playing the Eugene Levy golf game, and writing the writing the game fact for it, which to this date is still the sole walkthrough for that game on GameFAQs.
That is, yes. Stroke limit.
Yeah.
But you have to say it, stroke limit. See, that's...
You got to do the Eugene Levy impression, which I'm not going to even try.
No, I mean, I might get his eyebrows if I don't keep these under control. I'll get his eyebrows, but that's about it.
Well, you know, it's funny that walkthrough actually made a appearance on a very popular gaming channel, the Game Grumps, because they were so angry at that thing that it was in the comments, I think, somewhere that they were talking about. Yeah, there's one game fact for that game, and here it is, and there was the link. And I was like, I remember that.
Now that's cool. Now you see, now my work is getting recognized finally.
Yeah, right.
But that is true. That in figuring out the timing of that wacky world of miniature golf.
Right.
Oh, well, just like finding the timing on Sewer Shark, right? Or find on all of these freaking games.
You know, thank goodness the game ran at a low frame rate and was all hand animated, right? Because otherwise it would have been a pain in the huge pain. I mean, imagine if that circling thing that spits the oil out was at 60 frames per second. Good luck.
Oh.
You're never gonna get rid of the bikers with that.
Do you know I had excised that from my memory bank until it was just now reintroduced. Thank you, Rudy.
Oh, you're welcome. It's all up there for me.
Just brutal. And then the lawnmower. Remember the lawnmower one?
The lawnmower one, yes. The submarine.
I think the best score that you could get, well, I think it was 18, but the best in practice, honestly, was like 20.
Yeah, I mean, there was so much frame perfect necessariness to get the hole-in-one that in most cases that it was like, I don't know, I'm going to try it a couple times and hopefully we'll get it there eventually.
That was a labor of love, okay?
Yeah.
It really was. That was unbelievable. So, again, we have this IPO, and it goes off without a hitch, and people are excited.
Yeah.
So, but now they have to finalize the specifications and get it to, and I would just call them, to get it to the 3DO consortium members.
Right.
To manufacture. So, because the launch date is in October.
Oof.
Yeah, in October. So let's think about this. I mean, you've got this thing, this 3DO, it's launched October 1993. Okay. And it's launched. Now, Trip Hawkins himself says it never launched at $699. That it really was $599.
I read about that quote, and the thing that I found digging into that quote was that what Trip Hawkins actually said was that the higher price was the MSRP, the recommended retail price, but there were a couple of guys here and there selling it for less, which is not reassuring, honestly.
No. And again, the other members of the consortium didn't have their units ready October of 93. It was only, and I would just say Panasonic instead of Matsushita.
Sure,
we all know what we're talking about. The Panasonic FZ, or should I say Z1, that retailed, the price was quoted everywhere as $699.99.
Yep.
It contained Crash and Burn. That was the pack-in game.
Okay.
And it might have contained other discs that were non-games, like a Compton's Interactive Encyclopedia.
Yeah.
But Crash and Burn was the only game available for 2 months.
Ooh, man. Oof. And considering how easy it was to license for this thing, you'd
Yes,
imagine
so
that
the-
you would coordinate that all up beforehand, but apparently not.
So the license fee was $3 only.
Yep.
And the third parties had creative control.
And it's worth also noting that these discs were much easier and cheaper to manufacture than the cartridges that were being used in like the Super Nintendo at the time. Super Nintendo, I mean, the thing about video game pricing is that it's not very elastic, right? It wants to stay at one level, and therefore anything that you can do to reduce costs of production, gets you to make games with higher budgets at that same price point. And so games for the Super Nintendo were selling for like $80 in those years. Final Fantasy VI was $80. I'm not sure if Earthbound was $80, but Chrono Trigger was $80.
Earthbound might have been 60 only because that was a Nintendo. That was a first party release.
Right. So you were fighting with these games that had these expensive cartridges, made with expensive materials that were selling for $80. If you went to $3 of licensing fees and just printing out an optical disc, you brought your manufacturing costs down from, $40 to $5, $10, something like that.
And as Sony took note of this, and then Sony's watching this, and so on their original PlayStation, it was $5.
Yep.
Fee. And that's why you had $40 games when the PS1 came out. So, and then with the 3DO, it's not only there we go, I'm counting right, $3 only, but the minimums were far lower to get a run made.
Yeah.
And then the developers had creative license. So it's important to note, though, and we have to have a timeline because the timeline is everything.
Yeah.
So whether one says it was $5.99 but $6.99 MSRP.
Yeah.
Well, that was October of '93 with Crash and Burn.
Yep.
So Crash and Burn again was made by Crystal Dynamics, who made the Horde and who still exists today making Tomb Raider games.
Wow. Okay. Did not know that.
And that's because IDOS purchased Crystal Dynamics, and then Square Enix purchased IDOS, and then Square Enix sold off Crystal Dynamics itself to another company called Embracer.
Oh yeah, Embracer Group, yeah.
And
Square Enix buying IDOS got us Final Fantasy 17 cameos in Deus Ex, the third Deus Ex game. Pretty sure it was 17, yeah.
See, you're on it, Rudy. You know the score on this. But that's where Crystal. So anyhow, Crystal Dynamics made that game. That game, especially for the time, wonderful game. There was not a racing game like it on a home console.
Yeah.
So again, think of the time. So January 94. So 2 months later, we get Total Eclipse. And that's what Cybermorph on Jaguar wanted to be.
Yeah.
Was Total Eclipse on 3DO.
Yeah.
So then Mad Dog McCree and Night Trap.
Yep.
That's right. And that's the full adult Night Trap. Came out January 94. Okay. Out of This World 2 came out February of 94.
Okay, that's a nice name to see Out of This World 2. Yeah.
And so good game. Then you had March of 94, you had The Horde by Crystal Dynamics.
Yep.
You had Dragon's Lair, Pebble Beach Golf come out in March.
Yeah.
And then in April, you had Twisted the Game Show.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were a couple releases in Japan.
Yeah.
Which coincided with the Japanese release of the 3DO.
Right.
Which was, I believe, in April of 94. So 6 months from launch, you had about 10, no more than 15 games.
Ouch.
6
You just can't
months.
survive like that. You just can't survive like that. Ugh.
No, sir, you can't. And so what could you do? I mean, how could you, as a company, try to market a device like this? So the 3DO company saw this and they cut the price down to $499 in April.
It's worth remembering that the prices of hardware were dropping drastically at this point too. You know, RAM was getting cheaper, storage was getting cheaper. You know, just all computer stuff was just getting cheaper at a really rapid rate at that point. So, you know, it made sense on some level that they were like, okay, we can now still make a profit with $100 less because holy crap, everything's getting cheaper so fast right now.
But we just forgot the main point.
Yeah.
Well, I know I just forgot it until now. Duh. I mean, that's where is, you know what? I don't know. What do console manufacturers do in selling a console? They will usually either sell the console at a break even, or they will sell it at a loss.
Yeah, they'll dump them.
Figuring the games will make up for any loss in revenue. Sony did it with PlayStation 3 famously.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Microsoft did with their Xbox, especially Xbox One or Xbox 360 at first.
Probably, yeah. The 360 was the thing about the PS3 was that it was the cheapest Blu-ray player you could get at the time.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, just bizarre, but there it was.
So, but when you have a consortium, well, now there's no incentive for them to take a loss,
right?
When they don't control the software,
right?
So therefore, it kept the prices artificially higher. When normally they would have sold the console at a loss and made the games would take the slack up.
Yeah.
But when it's an independent consortium of hardware manufacturers, there's no incentive for them to do that, and so they didn't. And that's where we had high console prices. 6 months after launch, this was $499.
Yeah.
Well, it was around this time,
which is still pretty high, you know, compared to like the Super Nintendo at the time.
So let's think about this. I'm glad you brought this up. April of 94.
Yeah.
Let's think of what was out. Well, it's easier to say what was not released yet. 32X was still 5 months away.
Yep.
Which meant that also Saturn and PlayStation were not released.
Right.
You had Atari Jaguar. And I'm not including something like the Neo Geo here. So you have, you know, the Jaguar, Philips CDI.
The Neo Geo is not actually a bad comparison, I think, because like I remember seeing it in the game magazines and saying, "Whoa, that's steep." But the thing about the Neo Geo was that it had different tiers, right? There was like the bronze, silver, gold tier or something in the ads that I remember. There were different Neo Geos that you could buy.
So I can tell you about that. So they had the silver and gold.
Yeah.
And the gold pack was 2 controllers, those fantastic controllers.
Yeah.
Joysticks. And then it had the system and a pack-in game. And the pack-in was usually Magician Lord or Cross Swords.
Okay.
The silver had just the system and 1 controller. It may or may not have had the pack-in.
Okay.
So that was the only difference with that. It's important to note that they are I mean, they are the arcade game with the pins in slightly different places.
Yeah.
And a different clamshell. That's it. It is the exact arcade game.
Right.
Whereas it's not a port. It is the arcade game. So, but look at Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Sega CD.
Yeah.
By April of 94, we've had the cost reduced Genesis 2 and Sega CD 2.
Yep.
Right. And together, that was like $250 or maybe $300 at most for both of them.
Right.
In April of 94, the Super Nintendo might have been $150 or no more than $200.
Yeah.
And the CDI, and I remember this going to Best Buy. That's where I learned about Eugene Levy.
Uh-huh.
I learned about Eugene Levy. I learned about all of that crap with the digital video cartridge. So you want that.
Oh, yeah.
That MPEG-1 goodness. It might not even have been MPEG-1, okay? I mean, that was, the CDI was $250 and maybe $300 with the digital video cartridge.
Yeah.
Atari Jaguar was, I think it had just come out, or it was around that time. That was $250 with Cybermorph.
Mm-hmm.
So 3DO was asking $500 for a device that ostensibly was, it would provide an interactive multimedia experience.
Yeah.
It could play photo CDs.
Yeah.
Have you ever run a photo CD?
I've probably not, honestly. I mean, I know what they are, right? But like, But like at the same time, I've never actually bothered to make one, because by the time it made sense to make one, hard drive space was cheap enough that I could just, put all my pictures, all my photos onto my hard drive, or even flash memory, and it was all right.
I mean, for the time, it was a novel concept.
I mean, I didn't have any way to take digital pictures at that point, right? The first time I had access to digital photographs was probably, man. I mean, I was a late adopter. I usually am. So I didn't have anything that could take digital pictures until the early 2000s. So, none of this matters to me.
Well, you're waiting for the kinks to come out, right? I mean, that's
often, yeah. Sometimes there's a good reason to do that, right? Like if only I had done that with my first PS3, I wouldn't have a giant brick sitting in my closet somewhere. If only I had waited for the kinks to get worked out of the Xbox 360, I still might be able to play. What's that game called?
I hope it's not Final Fantasy 11.
Eternal Rhapsody, I think, something like that.
Okay, well, that's a good game. I was talking about Final Fantasy 11.
Or Operation Darkness. I'd still be able to play Operation Darkness.
So, yeah. So, I mean, that just threw me for a loop, let me tell you. But that's what we're dealing with at this time.
Yeah.
The $500 cost was still hard to swallow. At this same time, so we're talking March, April of 1994.
Yeah.
3DO saw that Sega, the previous summer, started instituting their own rating system, which we covered some of it on our previous episode about the Big Four Quintet games.
Yep.
So check it out. 3DO instituted their own rating system.
Right.
Although later on, when the ESRB formed, so we're talking in 1996, you could, as a third-party developer, put an ESRB rating. So like Lucian's Quest has an ESRB rating, not a 3DO game rating.
Okay.
But 3DO instituted their game ratings, which was E for everyone, 12, 17, and AO. And there are quite a few AO games on the 3DO. Yes, there are. You know it's coming.
Oh no. Yeah, here we go.
I'm not wearing a tie.
Oh no. Oh no.
I'm not wearing a tie. Oh, you know I'm wearing a collar, but not a tie. So guess what? That's coming too. So, and again, around the same time, 3DO realized, okay, as the 3DO company, we need some money to market this thing.
Yeah.
So they instituted an extra $1 royalty that went into an advertising fund.
Okay.
So that that's what it was called. It was called they called it an advertising fee. It was the Manufacturers Development Fund fee. That's what they called it. So yes. Yeah. So
all the water running in your house good? No problems there? I mean, you can go get a tie if you want one, but I don't think you need one if your water is going all right.
Well, that's true. But I don't have my I'm wearing a belt, right? So you know I don't have the crack showing.
Well, plumbers are famous for that.
Yes, they are. That's true. So we just talked about the digital video cartridge on that CDI. Well, 3DO had one too.
Mm-hmm.
Because video CD was the future. Although Trip Hawkins himself planned that the 3DO would be high definition capable.
Yeah.
Now he said this in mid 1993. But correct me if I'm wrong. But Japan was only doing testing of HDTV in 94.
Yeah, I don't think it was really a thing yet for the most part. So I don't know how much he I'm highly doubtful that you could run a 1080p feed through a 3DO. That's just my guess based on the age of the hardware. It's you could maybe you could do 720 30 frames, interlaced or something. But my guess is that he was kind of hedging, right? That by the time those standards all get fixed up, we'll have an attachment or something for that.
So it's important to note, what if you're a developer and you said, sure, I want to make games for 3DO. Okay. Well, if you have $9,500 burning a hole in your pocket,
who doesn't?
You can. Well, I hope you do, because if you do, you get yourself a hot Apple Macintosh Quadra, either 900 or 950.
Okay.
So it's all the new bus greatness.
Yeah.
Okay. And with the development tool chain, and you get a special 3DO, and that's 9,500. And then for 6,000, you basically supply your own Quadra.
Okay.
And you get the new bus card interfacing to the 3DO. So let me ask you, were you ever interested? I know, like the Net Yaruze, which was the PlayStation, that was the one. It was kind of gimped, but you could develop PS1 games, and that was like $700.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Were you ever interested in maybe getting a dev kit?
I mean,
back in the day,
not really. I've never been actually the kind of person that does art or coding, and so the idea of making a game is one of those things that's always been kind of like, gee, it would be nice if I could do that someday, but all of the things that are required to do it are things that I don't enjoy, and so I don't know. I prefer playing games to making them, honestly.
Right. Well, I think we all do, right?
There are some incredibly autistic people out there that like coding more than they like playing games. That, they exist.
Well, that's true. So the 3DO, the graphics, though, they emphasized, and Trip Hawkins had a thing about graphics.
Yeah.
He said, I want this to have as many colors as possible.
Okay.
So it's mostly 16-bit colors, the amount of color drawn from a 24-bit color palette.
Okay.
And that it's 480i.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 480i interlaced. And I got to tell you, this was the first system I ever had. And now I have to tell you how I got a 3DO. This was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Geez, and I don't know if it was good or bad, but it had S-Video. And,
okay, yeah.
And the 3DO with S-Video output, just like Justin's new nickname, which is Aces, 3DO with S-Video output was Aces. Yes, it was. It looked great.
A lot of those systems back then had optional S-Video and looked real good if you had it. I mean, I have a S-Video cable for my Super Nintendo, and it looks gorgeous. I run it through my RetroTink and upscale it to 1080p or 720p, and it looks amazing. So,
right.
Good, much better than your usual composite cable, or God forbid the RF box thingy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, RF looks trash. You almost couldn't use an RF with the 3DO. That the video, the output quality was terrible. So again, 3DO had the digital video cartridge, but guess what? So there's a catch to this thing.
Of course.
They were dependent on which 3DO you had.
Oh no! Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
They couldn't standardize it?
Nope.
Oh no!
No,
it's like you're sitting at the bottom. You're sitting with a shovel at the bottom of a 6-foot deep grave, and then you're like, man, I'm almost done. I can get out of here in a minute, and then all of a sudden, 3 tons of dirt, not just dirt, manure, land on you. It's like, I'm stuck here. This is now my grave.
Oh, it's horrible. Yeah, no, they weren't standardized. So if you had an FZ1 Panasonic and you had the digital video card, and then your buddy has the Goldstar 3DO, even though it looks like it should fit perfectly.
Yeah.
It looks like it does. Guess what? It doesn't. It won't work.
Damn, that sucks.
So Goldstar, their models, and they made several. People know, if they know about 3DO, they know about the Goldstar that was released here with the front loading. But did you know that Goldstar made 3DOs that looked like the PS1 cut down version?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Like the little small, and they made, I think, 2 or 3 different 3DOs in South Korea with the clamshell, but it looks like that PS1 cut down version.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
And those use different too.
Of course.
And then what if you got that Creative Labs 3DO blaster?
Oh no.
Well, it had a slot in the ISA slot. So in the ISA slot, it had an expansion.
Okay.
And that required its own digital video adapter.
No way.
Yeah, yes way. A Panasonic FZ1 won't work in the 3DO blaster card. No, it won't.
Geez. Oh, that's...
I know. Dumb. Mine just hair pulling dumb.
I mean, you'd think that someone as far-sighted as Trip, would have been like, let's make sure that this thing is standardized so that people can show their friends things, right? But apparently not,
I know. and Trip Hawkins, after seeing all of this in practice, he quickly realized that this was a problem. The lack of coordination between hardware manufacturers, developers, and the 3DO company itself. I mean, that doomed the 3DO.
I mean, imagine if the Dreamcast that you bought would only work with your Dreamcast games that came from the same toy store. So you have like, you know, your Best Buy Dreamcast, then you have your Software Etc. Dreamcast, and then you have your KB Toys Dreamcast, and you know you just gotta you're limited to the games that are at that particular place. It's just as bad, or maybe even worse. Yeah,
and it's tantamount to that. It clearly is, and just bonehead move.
Yeah,
but here's some other bonehead moves. Okay,
there's more, of course.
So let's talk about the controllers.
Sure.
Oh, here we go. Anyone out there that has turbo graphics, not even the Duo, they had one controller port. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're playing and it's just one player, it's fine. But what if you want to play Bomberman or something?
Sure.
What if you wanted to, you know, well, you have to have a turbo tap. You have to have the splitter that you put in the controller port.
Yeah.
And then you put 1, 2, 3, etc.
Oh, geez. Oh.
Well, that's better than this. Let's say, Rudy, me and you are playing Naughty Dog's Classic. Or maybe Classic for the music for the time. But White Zombie is kind of dated.
Yeah.
Listen, you know it's a Rob Zombie song or part of when all you hear.
Yeah.
And we got friends, right? Friends that we know going back who can attest to this. If you hear a yeah, if you hear, you know it's a Rob Zombie song. So anyways, you do. Yeah. I mean, unbelievable. So, Way of the Warrior, though. Let's say if me and you are playing that. Well, there's only one controller port on the 3DO.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's a 9-pin D sub, so it looks like a Sega Genesis port.
Yeah. Okay, that was pretty standard. You could you could plug in, I believe. How did this work? Atari had the same things too for their little stick with one button. Then there was the Sega Genesis that had the same one.
Back. Yeah, we're going way back with that one. Yeah.
Oof. Okay, so you get a 9-pin D sub.
Except if you tried to plug a Sega controller, you could actually fry that port somehow.
What? There's no power source in the what?
You somehow.
Normally, you need to apply power to something to fry it. A voltage has to come from somewhere. You get this inert piece of plastic with no batteries in it. I agree. No source of power. Not even any like static electricity thing that it uses to do some goofy thing. And you plug it in and you burn out the controller port?
Here's the problem.
Oh, no. Yeah, go ahead.
On the 3DO.
Yeah.
The headphone jack is on the controller itself.
Oh, no. Why? Why would?
Yes, it is.
Like
and
the PS4,
I just remembered that.
Yeah.
That's how. For those watching and listening at home, that's how you know I actually had one of these damn things.
Yeah.
So there's a headphone jack and a little volume knob on the bottom of the control, like not the bottom, but what's facing you.
Yeah.
The edge.
It's like the PS4 controller.
Yes. So don't plug in a Sega controller into that port, okay? So this is what you have to do. Put a notch
in the thing or something so it's not compatible. That's how you do that. But no. Like well,
I agree.
I mean, I guess the headphone in the controller thing isn't such a bad idea if the controller doesn't have a battery that has to charge up, right? Like that's the main problem I had with the PS4 one is that like now I have this headphone in there and now my battery for my controller is running out twice as fast, right? Because it's throwing sound into these rather low resistance condensers or inductors basically. And like I don't know, like if you had a wired connection and then another wired connection, some wires for headphones are pretty short, so maybe that's not so bad. I don't know. Go ahead.
I actually liked it,
Mm-hmm.
to be fair,
Yeah.
but the thing is, if you wanted to play against me,
Yeah.
and let's say I'm playing as Shaky Jake
Uh-huh.
and you're playing as Crimson Glory,
Yeah.
you have to plug your second controller port into the top of my controller.
Yeah.
It's
wasn't the
it's a
Famicom
daisy
like that?
chain. It's a daisy chain. You
Yeah.
have to plug your second controller into the top of my first controller.
Which isn't so egregious if you're sitting on the same couch looking at the same TV. Right? To be fair.
Yes.
But you do end up
So,
with bandwidth problems eventually if you keep doing that over and over again. So who knows?
yes. Yes, you do. But you have that, right? That was something. They did have another expansion port, so the second one,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the high speed expansion,
Oh.
which was never used, but was supposed to be used. Trip Hawkins claimed it would be used for the M2 later.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about that imminently
Yeah.
and how that never happened. So the 3DO, did you know they had a 5-disc changer 3DO system?
I think I've heard of that. I'm not sure. But that was a weird thing that people liked to do back in the day. They had these big CD changers that you could put in the back of your car. So it's in the trunk, and so whenever the sun shines down, all your CDs break.
Yeah.
Or it would jam, and then you just have like this massive CDs that you just can't get anything into because the whole thing has got a piece of plastic wedged somewhere, and you're like, oh no.
Sounds like you've dealt with that before.
I mean, old CD players had their advantages, and CDs are still a great medium to hold sound in. You get nice 44K digital sound. You have very limited. If you take good care of the CDs, error correction doesn't really fail. The CDs last basically forever. You can still put in. I can still play the old CDs that I had when I was a kid. They still work as long as I take good care of them. But then at the same time, you had growing pains there, right? This CD skipping, and then anti-skip technology, and you had you had some CD spools or spindles that would actually damage the disc. You'd have the lens would tap it or something like that, and you'd scratch up your disc over time. There was all kinds of growing pains with that, but they kind of worked through them in a reasonable time frame, I think. But yeah, I mean, a changer I never understood the giant changer idea, because it's CDs are cheap to make, but if you don't have a CD, recordable, a CDR, right? It's not the cost of a CDR that you lose if the changer breaks down. It's the cost of the actual original disc. And you can pretty trivially copy audio CDs, but you need that hardware first. And I didn't have a CDR until 2002, 2003. So,
that was the other deal with the CDRs and the 3DO.
Yeah.
Again, Trip Hawkins and his hatred for lockout chips,
sure,
and region lockout chips. That's why there are no chips of that sort on the 3DO. Therefore, you can play CDR burned games on a 3DO. You have to try to burn them at the lowest speed and that you can, and they should work.
Yeah.
So you do have that.
Yeah.
the first CDR was probably 1998. It was a Plexter. Good quality burner. And then after that, but the media was still somewhat expensive until like 2001.
Sure. But it was still cheaper than, the $15 that you spent on the music CD or something like that.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
if you wanted to put it in your car, you'd like to make a copy of it.
Absolutely. It was much cheaper than that.
Yeah.
So we were getting to the M2 right now. I'm punching at stuff because I'm about ready to lose it. So, and, I got to tell you, they saw, though, the writing was on the wall. December of 1994,
wow.
Because in that May of 93 video, Trip Hawkins said he admitted that the games would not be ready at launch. There would only be a few, but that all 91 would be finished by mid-1994. And as we saw, only 15 games or so were finished by then. December of 94 sees the American 32X release and the Japanese Sega Saturn and Sony PlayStation release.
Yep.
And he saw that the 3D capabilities of the 3DO were not up to par.
Right.
And it's similar to what NEC faced in 1994 with their PC-FX.
Right.
Where NEC wanted the top of the line two-dimensional graphics and amount of colors in its palette. They prioritized that.
Yeah.
And didn't even bother to have a 3D capable system.
Well, from what I understand, that was the original vision for the Saturn too. Right? Like they were like, yeah, we're going to make the best 2D games that there can be. And then they were like, well, the PlayStation's going to do 3D. And they're like, oh hell. Well, let's slap some 3D stuff into the Saturn and hope for the best. And you ended up with a system that unfortunately could do really good 2D stuff, but a lot of developers spent a lot of time doing 3D stuff that was not quite as, quality as the stuff that you could get on the PS1. And when today, when we have, games with, 100 million polygons simultaneously on screen, it's kind of funny to think about the PS1 as being good graphics, but like it was then, Metal Gear Solid was like, holy crap, I've never seen anything like this before. And
take advantage of limited RAM in the PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
So the Saturn, Sega AM2, I think, fought to get some sort of 3D capability but they could. I mean, they did the Virtua Fighter games, right?
Sure.
Not everyone was as good as them.
Well, I mean, Virtua Fighter still looked really mediocre, compared to a lot of this. I mean, like the way that you got around things was you had a lot of flat color polygons instead of like texture mapping, right? So like if you look at characters in Virtua Fighter, the first one, you can see where the triangles are, and you can see that each triangle is a specific color, which is way cheaper, from a processing perspective than texture mapping things and rotating that bitmap and cropping it properly and looking for things that are coming over it, kind of thing. So yeah.
Yes. So Trip Hawkins knew this.
Yeah.
And so he started to talk up the successor, which would be called M2. At first, it would be an add-in for the 3DOs.
Yeah.
And that would be an add-in using this high-speed expansion port.
Okay.
So we're talking January of 95. 95 is going to be a year of various peaks and valleys, and it ends in a deep valley. So then the plans change by May of 95 to where now it's not going to be an add-in card.
Ooh, yeah.
It will be a separate system.
Mm-hmm.
However, it will have backwards compatibility with the original 3DO.
Yeah. Which is really nice to show to all those people who loyally bought the thing at $500 or $600, a year and a half ago.
Correct.
Oof.
So, and then I'll get to when I got the 3DO, which is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
So then by the end of 95, Panasonic, again, I'm using them instead of its parent Matsushita here, but they purchased the rights to the M2 console exclusively.
Okay, that solves some problems but creates new ones.
So, and I believe it was in either December 95 or January 96, whatever the case, they bought the rights for $100 million.
Whoa. Whoa.
Now, was it seriously? Now, that sounds like a lot of money for...
It sounds like an awful lot of money for a system that we know failed and didn't actually happen. Who got that money? Trip Hawkins? Or like...
The 3DO company itself as a public entity, yes.
Okay, so is that what fueled their game production for the next couple of years after that, or what?
It did. It did, and it was the first time they ever posted a profit. They posted a profit of $1.2 million.
Oh wow!
Yes. So
or their losses like the previous year. Geez.
So, well, that's why in the eventual dissolution of the 3DO company, their bankruptcy proceedings and all were put on hold because the Securities and Exchange Commission was investigating them.
Oof.
You wonder why, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little interesting, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It's so then. So as we backtrack just a little bit, so we'll say January of 96.
Yeah.
Well, then July of 1997, Panasonic says, we're not releasing the M2 at all. It's not even going to be a video game console.
Yeah.
A home console.
Wow.
They eventually made arcade game with Konami, and Konami made 5 arcade games using the M2.
Okay.
And here's the thing though. Initially, the M2 was supposed to be, and I'm counting them up, 7 times the processing power of the PlayStation 1.
Okay, that's something.
Now this used dual PowerPC 602, which is a cut down version of the 603s.
Okay.
Well, in practice, the M2 was only a little bit better than the Nintendo 64.
Ouch.
So it just underwhelming, to say the least.
Yeah.
So this M2 was a dog that couldn't hunt. That's the old adage.
Yeah.
So, and then around the same time, the 3DO company sold the rights to the original 3DO hardware to Samsung for $20 million.
Okay.
And now they're no longer in the hardware business. The 3DO as a hardware entity is now dead.
Yeah.
And, well, they summarily purchased New World Computing.
Okay. Might and Magic. Good stuff.
Yes. So, and Cyclone Entertainment. And then they created the Army Men games.
Yeah.
So the 3DO company now is a third party.
Yeah.
And they're
Again.
releasing games for PlayStation and PC. And
Yeah.
so, but in 2003, the company was no longer a going concern. And with the SEC investigating them, they were sold off at bankruptcy auction. And then like Take-Two Interactive got the Army Men. And I forgot who got the Might and Magic series.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah,
that's how that ended up. I do have to mention about the joystick. See, I forgot I was talking about the joy pads. On the original ones, you really couldn't do diagonals.
Really?
Yes.
Ah, dang it. That's oof.
Yes.
That's pretty. I mean,
there
are games where you can get away with that. They are all like turn-based, you know. But yeah, in general, you need. So I'm thinking to like funny things like I have my Super Nintendo emulator has the ability to turn off diagonals, and most games are unplayable without them. Right? You have to have those 8 directions to do things in order for things to work and make sense, because sometimes you need to do one and the other at the same time. So, oh wow, that's a rookie mistake. Yeah.
So look up on your phone right now while I talk about it. Capcom made a joystick called the Soldier joystick. So if you look up Capcom Soldier joystick, it's a joystick where the buttons are where the directional pad is relation to the buttons is like 60 degrees.
Oh.
Canted.
Yeah.
And it was done only to foment doing the Hadouken and Shoryuken motions.
Okay.
Because the original 3DO controller couldn't really do it.
Interesting.
Yes. Again, another mind-numbing design issue.
Yeah.
With the lack of diagonals. Incredible. And so I forgot to mention about the arcade games where American Laser Games, they leveraged the 3DO. They actually had 3DO units in the arcade cabinets.
Oh, really? Okay.
So Mad Dog McCree 2, you had Mazer, you had Shootout at Old Tucson, Orb Attack, Crime Patrol. Those literally had, and they released Way of the Warrior. They just put a 3DO with like the consumer game in the cabinet, basically.
Okay, fair enough.
For Way of the Warrior. And they released those. Those are regular 3DO arcade games as opposed to the M2.
Right.
The M2 consisted of Battle Tryst, Hell Knight, Heat of 1198, which is a soccer game.
Okay.
Poly Stars. And it's not poly as in having fun with people.
Right.
At least I don't think it is.
No.
Yeah, and Total Vice. I've
never heard of any of these before. These were Konami through the M2?
So these are the Konami M2 based arcade games.
Okay, weird.
But then go back to the 3DO. So we mentioned the American Laser Games. Well, guess who's back? Atari Games.
Oh boy. Oh no, here it goes.
Time Warner Interactive. They're back in this discussion now.
They've made 1 or 2 good games over the course of 30 years. Sure, yeah.
They're back. They are back with 2 games that never got released. Alien Scum.
Okay.
And Beavis and Butthead.
Was it There was a Beavis and Butthead game on the Super Nintendo, wasn't there? Was this a port
Yeah.
of that or a totally separate game?
No, it was that was a separate game, separate
Okay.
premise.
Okay, fair enough.
But this 3D this arcade 3DO based that Time Warner Interactive / Atari Games made is ridiculous. It's just, and they actually play tested it. I think in Chicago, maybe in New York, and it failed so bad that they didn't even release it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how bad this thing was. What a train wreck.
That is so painful. I mean, you know.
So now you're thinking, okay, you like them. We all subscribe to the video game magazines. We all subscribe to at least one of them. A lot of us, a lot of them. So
sure.
You're thinking, what about a 3DO magazine, right?
You could try it. You know, if only there were more games for it, but you could try it.
So in America, we got, this is what the magazine was called.
Okay.
3
for
3DO enthusiasts. That's the name of the magazine.
3DO enthusiasts. Did I get that right?
Yes.
3 what for 3DO enthusiasts?
That's it. It's the number 3.
No, but that's not. You know, back when you were in high school and you got a math question and they said show your work. This is an answer where we're missing the work, right?
Yes.
You could have, you know, like the gimmick for the magazine could be that there could be 3 chief editors, and then there would be the 3 for 3DO enthusiasts, and it's 3 guys that love the 3DO and talk about 3DO games and play them and do magazine articles about them. That would be a thing that could work. But just calling the magazine 3 for 3DO enthusiasts and not having the 3 mean anything, to me, does not bode well. I'll just put it that way. I trust that this magazine didn't have a whole lot of issues before it went under.
So what I'm doing is I'm texting you this.
Oh, goodness.
And I'm texting you the link right now to all 7 issues. Well, it's the covers.
Yeah.
So it's the covers to all 7 issues of 3 for 3DO enthusiasts. Oh yeah. So while you're looking at that, in the UK, now mind you, Europe got the 3DO much later than the United States did. But Paragon Publishing published 16 issues of 3DO magazine.
Okay.
And it's either, I believe it's 16. And then in Japan, there's actually a very good magazine, and it really covers the games well. And it was called 3DO Live in Japan.
Yeah.
And there are 16 issues of it. So in the Internet Archive, you can look at a lot of these magazines.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful that someone has uploaded them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But
so I'm just looking at these issues for 3DO enthusiasts. One by one, we've got random free 3DO software guide with reviews for Road Rash, Shockwave, Who Shot Johnny Rock, Petanque, and more.
Yeah, Petanque was a brutal game. Oh.
We've got issue number 2, which apparently has stolen part of the movie poster for Demolition Man and just zoomed in way more than the thing should possibly have been zoomed in. We have Station Invasion and Off-World Interceptor and Guardian War, so there's something good. Street Fighter 2 Turbo, so you're going to need that special soldier.
What did you think of that controller?
I mean, it's an interesting idea because, you know, you got to try different ergonomic things now and then. You know, maybe you have the buttons at an angle, and you have your thumb over here, and you don't have to like, put your wrists at a, I don't know. People are all about those angle mouses these days. Wait, actually, I think I have one. It's still here. I don't know. Where is that damn thing? There it is. A guy from my work was complaining that his wrist was getting hurt from using the mouse all day, and so he ended up getting one of these goofy things where like your hands at like a funky angle.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some ergonomic advantage to having the different things at different angles.
Let me ask you, would there be an ergonomic advantage to one of them?
Yeah, I mean, some people love those things, and they actually have like movement advantages too, because you can flick a trackball and you can't flick a mouse.
Right.
So yeah, some people swear by those.
Yeah. That one is 25 years old, but it still works pretty well. But
yeah.
But those magazines, look at that. Incredible.
I mean, Wing Commander 3, 3DO edition, best ever. We got Space Hulk. Space Hulk is an interesting game because Space Hulk is a Warhammer 40K game before they were deciding to call it Warhammer 40K for video game purposes.
Yes.
So that's an interesting creation, little piece of history.
So with the M2, before Panasonic shut down the notion of it as a home console, they did show 4 games.
Yeah.
In like December of 95, Clay Fighter 3.
Okay, the first one was good enough to get a sequel. Maybe.
And then Iron Blood, which became Iron and Blood Ravenloft on I think PS1.
Okay. I think I've heard of that one. Yeah.
And then Descent, which I think is an Interplay game.
Yes. The first Descent.
Descent, yeah.
That's an interesting one because that one also was very heavily reliant on having lots of really good fine controller control. And so if you had a bad controller and trying to play Descent, good luck.
And then IMSA Racing, IMSA Racing, which someone found the source code to it. And that is, to this day, that's the only M2 home console game that you could play.
Yeah. Huh. All right.
And then the famous from the Studio Warp D2, that was shown February of 96.
Yeah.
And then that's all she wrote with the M2. And again, we covered how that crashed and burned. So
yeah. The sequel to D. I mean, what else can you ask for?
It doesn't get any better. At least not with some people in my family who, for some reason, loved the original D.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't get it, but they did. Yeah.
D-Zone.
At least it wasn't the R Zone.
Yeah. Well, I mean R Zone was one thing, but you could have R Type. R Type was pretty good.
Very good, but could be very difficult too.
Yes, well, by design. Yeah, it was Gradius on hard mode.
Oh. I mean, there are times where I cursed R Type, man.
Oh yeah.
And then you get sent back to the beginning. I mean, it's just terrible. So great game, but very hard.
Yeah.
But it's all about the games with the video game console. So, but we got to talk about the AO games.
Oh,
man. We were alluding to one of them earlier.
So it's funny because there was an article in, let's see if I can find it. It was an article in Electronic Gaming Monthly. Yeah, number 70, May 95. And I had to look through this because I went to the 3DO's Wikipedia page and they're like, yeah, there were a lot of adult games on it in Japan specifically. And they referenced particularly this one article from this particular issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly. And it took me so long to actually find the article because what it actually is a tiny little blurb on the side of another page by some guy who, like, you can barely even find the damn thing. I'm having trouble finding it now. Where was it? There's Patonk. Let's see. Tricks of the Trade. Return Fire for 3DO. Where is
the hot actress at the time was Tia Carrere. And she was in a game called The Daedalus Encounter. And,
okay, I've heard of that one, yeah.
And so that had some notoriety to it. It was okay.
Yeah, here it is. International news by Nob Ogasawara, edited by Mike Vallis. Howdy, gang. This is Field Operative Nob reporting from deep undercover of the night in Tokyo. The 32-bit CD system war is still raging, with Sony and Sega claiming to have sales of 600,000 units, respectively, on PSX and Saturn as of March. PCFX is still chugging along its own way back from these machines, so it shouldn't be long before it joins 3DO as a machine primarily for ogling skin, if you catch my drift, and I think you might. The Jag, where's it at? Haven't seen a unit on sale anywhere over here yet. Other than that, the PC Engine and Mega Drive, and with it the 32X, seem to be fading. Super Famicom is still going healthy thanks to Chrono Trigger, Front Mission, and Dragon Quest VI.
So the adult games that they're referring to, there were a litany of virtual cameraman games.
Oh, no.
And this started on the Pioneer Laser Active. Yes, they did.
Okay. I remember that vaguely.
That's another podcast episode. That's another one. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I don't know what I was thinking. Pyramid Patrol was good. But anyways, that's a whole nother ball of wax. I might have to put a leather hood on or something, because it's the only way I can reminisce about a Laserdisc system where everything is really rail shooters and like JB Harold Murder Club and stuff like that.
There was the one Don Quixote JRPG on the Laser Active, so you always had that.
That is true. That is true. Yes. Again, you're bringing up all the hits, and I'm bringing up all the zeros.
I'm not sure if I'd call Don Quixote for the Laser Active a hit, but I'll take it.
So, but the Virtual Cameraman series, they had a couple of them on Laser Active.
Okay.
Well, there are 4 or 6 of them on the 3DO. So that's for starters. Well, then Vivid, that's right. Stephen Hirsch, that's right. So Vivid Pictures had a multimedia arm, Vivid Entertainment.
Okay, sure.
And they came out with 7 or 8 games, it seemed. And The Coven, Blonde Justice, Endlessly, ooh, Love Bites, even with dentures, Love Bites, Supermodels Go Wild. Then you have SEX. That's right. It's just like Vince Russo's faction in TNA. That's right. And then you have Mind Teaser. Well, then there are other adult games too, like Neuro Dancer, Snow Job. I don't even know what Snow Job refers to.
I've seen a playthrough of it. It's not actually an adult game. It's an FMV game, or at least the version I saw.
It's an FMV game. It's not correct. It's like a 17 rated game.
Yeah, it's got some violence and some kind of implied, but like there's nothing in it that you couldn't watch on YouTube, for instance. At least the version that I saw didn't have anything that you couldn't watch on YouTube. But it was like a point and click adventure game, which, you know, it was poorly acted, but, you know, and had some really bad puzzles, but, you know, nothing like Ripper or, you know.
And then we get the granddaddy of them all.
Oh no.
Plumbers don't wear ties. Oh yeah.
That's the one.
I'm not wearing one. I got the collar, but no tie. We're ready to go. Where's my plunger at?
Right. Well, you need a couple of different types of plungers if you're actually a professional plumber. You need one for sinks, the flat base, and then you need one for like toilets and things that have large holes. You need the one that has there are multiple types of plungers. This is something that you know when you're in the business, which I'm not in the business, but I at least know this.
That's why you're awesome, Rudy. You're thinking analytically about this.
I mean, you got look, if you're going to play Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, you got to turn off every part of your brain that is not analytical, because if you don't, it's all those parts that are turned on, they're going to scream in agony, right?
Most people out there are thinking of the drain snake. They're not thinking of, well, you do have a flat kind of plunger here. Then you have one that you pull up with a second handle to change the pressure. And so plumbers don't wear ties. It's just as bad as it sounds, but it's majestically bad.
Yeah, it's kind of a train wreck, but like the kind of train wreck that you have to watch because there's a bunch of chemicals that were in a couple of different things, and when they mix, like fun things happen. Not fun things, but things that are at least interesting to watch happen.
How many times in science class did these other morons try to have fun with chemicals in chemistry class, for instance? I'm sure you've seen.
You know, you hope that they don't, because you know they're working with some like copper sulfate, or you know, goodness forbid they're doing a titration with some nitric acid or some sodium hydroxide. You know, you could actually have some real problems there. So, you know, you got to keep that stuff inside the glassware. That's the general rule. Unless you're working with hydrofluoric.
That's a general rule. Of course it is.
Then you can use,
you know how idiot kids can be.
Well, sure. But like, I mean, you know, the thing to remember is that if you have to work with hydrofluoric acid, you can't use glassware because it eats through glass. So what you got to use are Cool Whip containers, properly washed.
But there were a lot of excellent games, though.
That's true. Yeah.
For instance, well, Guardian War, there, one of my favorite RPGs of all time. To me, it made the system not a regrettable purchase back in September of 1994.
Okay. I mean, I found an ISO and I emulated it for a bit. I played through the first map, and it's a really solid little tactical RPG. I agree with you. It's really fun.
It's tremendous. And then, so when I got the 3DO, I went to, it was a furniture store.
A furniture store?
A furniture store that sold like some appliances. So they're like, they sold appliances and furniture.
Okay.
And they happened to have a 3DO there.
Like, it was for sale, or they were using it for something, or
they were selling it, but they were clearing it out.
Okay. So like they had thought, hey, let's get this multimedia platform and we can put something on a projector or something so that we can advertise in store or something. Maybe?
Correct.
Or maybe we had it play music while the store was open or something. I don't know. And then they're like, this thing was way expensive and not worth it, and we need to get rid of it.
We'll put it to you this way.
Yeah.
I paid, so I saved up all my money.
Yeah.
And then my mom felt sorry for me and kicked in 100.
Okay.
And it was 500. Okay. However, and Guardian War came out later. I got that at Software Etc.
Yeah.
But at September 94, it was, I think, Jurassic Park Interactive, Crash and Burn, Total Eclipse, and then a couple other games.
Yeah.
And then So probably Compton's Interactive Encyclopedia.
Sure.
Now you're thinking, why did I even get a 3DO?
Sure.
Because so imagine going to Funko Land
Yes.
in the summer of 1994.
Okay.
And imagine the manager of that Funko Land
Yeah.
looking like comic book guy from The Simpsons. Exactly, to a T.
Okay.
An actual T. So I was looking at the Neo Geo cartridges.
Okay. Which
Now,
they had a very small number of it at most Funko Lands.
So I didn't have a Neo Geo at the time.
Right.
It would have been 2.5 years until eventually I got a used one.
Yeah.
But I was looking at Fatal Fury 2. Oh,
Solid choice. Good game.
solid choice. Samurai Showdown 1.
Okay.
And
not quite as famous as number 2, but still a good game.
still a good game. Well, then the guy interrupts me.
Yeah.
He goes, "Hey, kid,
Uh-huh.
do you want to know what the future is?"
Oh, no. Here it comes.
He
It was
said
DivX,
that,
right? DivX. Yeah, he was all about DivX.
he said that the future
Yeah.
is 3 letters. Now, if I had my wits about me at that age, I would have said CDI.
Uh-huh.
But no, I go, "No, I don't know what." And then he says 3DO.
Okay.
And then
He's
he
pitching
kept
it hard for some guy who just works at a Funko Land.
I mean, and this guy's comic book guy. If Matt Groening ever did a live Simpsons, this guy was comic book guy.
Okay.
I mean, down to the shirt.
Oh, wow.
Down
Okay.
to, yes. Everything. Body type, everything. So here I am, an impressionable kid, and I thought, this guy might be right. Well, then when I go to this appliance and furniture place,
Yeah.
and they're telling me and my mom that they're clearing this out,
Yeah.
and then they're throwing in, and it was like 8 games with this thing.
Okay.
So it wasn't 500 for the system and just crash and burn.
Right.
No,
Right.
I mean, there were 8 games with this. I
Okay,
just
it's not too
forgot.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the start of the 3DO journey.
All right.
And then Software Etc. carried 3DO. So that's where you go into the mall and everyone thinks they're cool, but you go in the mall and go to the Software Etc. or Electronics Boutique
Yep.
and get yourself some 3DO.
Okay.
And that's where Burning Soldier, which is has some of the greatest music tracks in a game.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. It's a top-down shooter.
Okay.
Very cool game. I mean, especially for the time.
Yeah.
And then again, the port of Samurai Showdown 1.
Yep.
Very good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Later, when I would get the Neo Geo, the original Samurai 1,
Yeah.
the 3DO version was close.
Okay, good.
And then the Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo,
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, when I started dealing in the arcade games, and I had the CPS2, the in this case it was a blue, it was an American CPS2.
Uh-huh.
The 3DO port was very close, and it had the arranged soundtrack, though.
Okay.
With the 3DO, it had the arranged, so the music was better.
Like Red Book or just
Yes,
like high
the
quality
Red Book,
media?
yeah.
Okay.
So incredible.
Mhm.
There are other great games, though. Starblade, Namco put out a version of Starblade that's excellent.
Okay.
And then you have Alone in the Dark 1 and 2.
So were those ports from the DOS version? So
Yes.
those games have not aged well, unfortunately. They were kind of like Resident Evil before Resident Evil, but with very, very, very primitive 3D graphics. There was a remake attempt that showed up on Dreamcast, and I think a couple other systems called Alone in the Dark, The Nightmare Returns, or something like that. Something trite like that. And that game was insanely hard. You no longer had the ability to run around and punch things like you did in the first ones. And they gave you a shotgun, but they gave you like 4 shots, and that was it. And enemies just respawned endlessly. I think I played it for like half an hour on Dreamcast before I gave up.
Wow. That's brutal.
It was brutal, yeah.
So then you had your ports, like all of the digital pictures, the Tom Zito games like Night Trap, Sewer Shark, Supreme Warrior, Corpse Killer. You had all them.
Sewer Shark is good.
It is. It's.
Was it a good port?
Oh, the 3DO ports are the best versions of those games by far.
Interesting.
Yes, they are. You want the 3DO versions of those games. Then you have games, Jurassic Park Interactive. That game is one of just a handful. As a kid, could scare you.
Okay, cool.
There's segments where you're walking around in like a corridor, and then you turn and there's a velociraptor right there.
Oh man!
And it will scare you.
Awesome.
The only other game like that was on Jaguar, Alien versus Predator.
Yeah.
Where you'll make a right turn or you go through a door and there's an alien. Right there. So incredible. Total Eclipse is good for the time, especially. Again, these games came out in 94, 95.
Yeah.
A couple in 96. There is one that's a hidden gem. It's Japanese only. But someone did a Let's Play on a Japanese, like a version of YouTube, but for like Let's Plays.
Yeah. Nico or?
I didn't catch that.
Was it on Nico or something else?
It might have been on Nico.
Yeah.
So the game is called Oukoku no Grand Chef.
Okay.
And the object is you make ingredients.
Okay.
To progress through the game, and then that's how you fight monsters, and that's how you're a chef, and you cook up various things.
Yeah, that actually sounds kind of interesting.
It actually deserved a port. That game deserved an English translation. Most certainly. That game is very good. That's a hidden gem, and it's on the Japanese 3DO.
Was there actually a region lock or there wasn't one, right? Yeah, so you can just grab the ROM or the ISO or whatever and you're good to go.
Correct. There were only a couple games where they forgot to include the Japanese font like in a certain file. But most did. So like Oukoku no Grand Chef or like the fighting games we talked about, Yu Yu Hakusho or the Sailor Moon one.
Yeah. That
you could just burn them and they should play in an American 3DO.
Okay.
So, and then there's some interesting games though. So there's a game called Neo Organic Bioform.
Okay. Sounds kind of like Guyver or like Eve Burst Error.
Well, it's a first-person dungeon crawler.
Oh, okay.
Except it looks like it should be first person because it's isometric. It's it has an isometric. It has an isometric view, but you animate an android that's in front of you or it is one of the weirdest games I've ever seen.
Okay.
Then there's a Konpeki no Kentai,
Mm-hmm.
which is a Japanese alternate history game.
Okay.
Like, what if the Japanese had the best navy in the world?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's what that game's about in
All
World
right.
War II.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's that. Then Wacky Races 1 and 2
Yeah.
came out only in Japan on
Mm-hmm.
3DO.
Okay.
Then you had, of course, Flashback, which was on every platform.
Yep.
Gex, Gex is one of the famous games, and that later became a pack-in
Yeah.
for the FZ10 model.
Okay. Okay.
So then there were a couple Dungeons and Dragons games, Slayer and Death Keep.
Okay.
Wing Commander, you had Super Wing Commander, and then
Yep.
you had Wing Commander 3. There we go.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
And that was very well received.
Yeah.
Way of the Warrior, which we talked about earlier.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. You have that Rob Zombie, White Zombie music, but interesting game, and that's how Naughty Dog got its start in game development.
Okay. Interesting.
And then there's some interesting puzzle games, Icebreaker
Mm-hmm.
and Gritters. Gritters, you're trying to maneuver your way. You're a human that is on a literal grid of blocks, and the blocks can crush you.
Okay. Yeah.
And so you have to maneuver your way around there. So interesting games. And honestly, there were a lot of bad games on the 3DO. There were some hidden gems.
Yeah.
So I would say maybe a third of the games are worth playing.
Yeah.
Especially Guardian War. To me, that justified, hey, I'm glad I got a 3DO. That game.
Okay, cool.
So I can't complain about the purchase that comic book guy said was the future.
Yeah, yeah.
So
well, it was the future, just not as far in the future as maybe you hoped.
So the only other thing is now that and I remember this now.
Mm-hmm.
It was noisy, meaning the CD drive would go.
Yeah.
I mean, the CD drive was noisy.
Dreamcast, the Dreamcast had the same problem.
Okay.
So, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. That familiar, not quite grinding noise, but of a motor spinning up and then spinning back down really quickly.
Oh yeah. And last but not least, there was another RPG. Well, there were a couple others, but Blue Forest, Monogatari, the story, that's okay. There's a lot of people are rediscovering that game and they say, oh, well, this game isn't that good. Well,
yeah.
You're comparing apples. You're comparing like a game like Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy.
Apples to
middle.
Ferraris.
Yeah, I mean, come on. But Lucian's Quest was a late 3DO, and that game, the battles are like Suikoden.
Sort of, yeah. I've played a little bit of it, yeah.
Little bit, maybe, but the game's decent. The game was meant for a younger audience.
Yeah. Very very snarky female lead character.
Yeah.
Very, very kind of low text. Not a lot of detailed storytelling, but just enough to get things done, kind of thing.
Right.
Decent sized world to walk around in. It seemed promising when I played an hour of it or so.
So what would you say, the games that you've played on 3DO, what would you go back and play again or play through?
Well, so I did play Guardian War for a little while, and I enjoyed it. It's really good. It's kind of like Shining Force, only with like a bigger map that you have to kind of maneuver around in. Lucian's Quest is okay. It's not like it's a huge draw for me. It's a little too simple, I think, for what I'm looking for in kind of like an RPG. One game that I didn't know there was a 3DO port for was Mega Race. And I played Mega Race on DOS. I had a friend who had a decent computer with a CD-ROM drive, and we would play Mega Race for hours back in the day. And the 3DO version of Mega Race is pretty good. It even controls reasonably well, too. So I was kind of happy to see that. Definitely want to try some of the games that you mentioned earlier, the dungeon stuff and some other good stuff like that. I tried Starfighter because I actually picked up a copy of Starfighter 3000, which is what it was called in the US, for PC when it came out on that system, on that format. So I had Starfighter 3000 for a while. I played it not that much. It's an okay game. It's a little repetitive, honestly. But not too bad. The 3DO version definitely has some control issues where it's just like very hard to actually control your ship and make it do what you want it to do. Whereas if you have a keyboard and a joystick with a lot more buttons on the PC version, you can get away with that much more easily. And then I tried playing Syndicate, and again, this is one of those games where I tried playing with a controller because I didn't know the 3DO had a mouse or that was an option. And the game is close to unplayable with a controller, but if it does work with the mouse, that might be worth trying. So those are the ones that I played in the last week or so when we were planning this episode. And I never really played any 3DO games significantly in the past, except for maybe the Horde for like 15 minutes. And I think I didn't even play the 3DO version. I think I was playing the Saturn version. So,
well, at least when you saved it, see, that's the thing on the Saturn. When you saved it,
I don't think we got to the point where you could save. Like, I think we got killed in the first level. Because you start out as this like spindly little kid that can't even swing the sword, and so you swing the sword in a big circle and you fall down, and then you get back up and you swing the sword one more time and you fall down. I think we just got. I was playing with a friend of mine back in high school, or maybe it was late middle school, and yeah, we got frustrated and bored with that pretty quickly, and went to go play something else instead on the Super Nintendo or who knows what.
Right. Thing is, that game, it would override everything else in your NVRAM.
Yeah.
It had a tendency to do that, and
that's horrible. That's just terrible.
So Crystal Dynamics ended up having to send out replacement copies of the Horde that would not do that.
Wow, that is...
It's a lot of 3DO talk tonight, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has been.
Yeah.
But man, having to send out new copies of the game to people that bought it, just the logistics of that is a pain in the butt. People probably had to send in a postcard or something to get their new copy. Who knows?
Well, they did. Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
No, yeah, they did. So just incredible just what went on with that game and what went on really with the developmental, with a lot of the game development. There were quite a few canceled games, especially for the M2. Some claim there were like 70 games in development, which I can't believe.
That seems unlikely, but when they say in development, they might mean somebody wrote something on a piece of paper, so who knows? Just
like all the game magazines that we would, they would say that so-and-so, this is in development right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Nintendo Power kept telling us that Dragon Quest 5 and 6 were going to come out in America, and they never did.
Right. So we know that, but I got to thank you, Rudy.
Yeah.
This has been an adventure.
Indeed. I mean, I'm going to have to go back over the list of games that you mentioned because I do want to try out some of the better games for the system now that I've played Guardian War and discovered that it's not quite as much of a lipstick on a pig as the CDI often was.
Well, I'm just thinking the CDI. Wow, that could be another episode. Honestly, just the history of. I know all of us and me with that system. Oh my God! But look at Burning Soldier. Burning Soldier as a top down is excellent. Then of course Star Blade. Then you can look at, of course, the fighting games if you're interested in playing them.
Yeah.
Neo-organic bioform, just to see how weird that is. And then
there's the chef game.
Yeah, and then the Oukoku no Grand Chef is tremendous. I actually enjoyed that game a lot.
I mean, it sounds like it's got something to offer. Like, you know, I remember when we were playing the CDI, right? And every single game was basically a tech demo of a clone of another game that was better. That was what the CDI kind of was over and over again. It was, oh, this is a game. It's like Doom, but crappy. You know, it's like Mario Brothers, but crappy. It's like Myst, but crappy. This actually sounds like there might be some things that aren't just, we took this idea from this other game that we saw that was popular, copied it poorly, and then spit it out on the CDI. It looks like we've actually got some new ideas that are popping around in the 3DO that I was completely ignorant of because I never really had one. So seems like it's worth some time.
It's a combination of some good PC game conversions. And arcade game conversions, and then original content that very unique for the time. And there were quite a few experimental games that would not have been released on a Nintendo system.
Right.
Or even a Sega system for that matter. They just would not have been released. So for that, I have to give the 3DO company and the 3DO sphere credit for these games even coming to market.
Right.
Like I said, I really enjoyed mine. I thought that
a system like that, if you find a couple of really good games, it could be worth it, right? You know, like I think the reason I bought my Xbox 360, I think, was for the first Dead Rising, and it that game was good enough that I wanted to have it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I found other fun games on the 360 to play, but like that was the one that was like, ooh, you know, 100 zombies on screen, reenact Dawn of the Dead, you know, as a photojournalist, you know, sign me up. I'm gonna go get one of these. You know, I picked up like Oblivion, and actually Operation Darkness was a really good game for the 360 that I think was really underrated. The basic idea of it is that you are in World War II, but you are a special group of werewolf soldiers fighting vampire Nazis. It's a fantastic little strategy game.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like, if you found 2 or 3 really good games for the 3DO, then it could absolutely be worth it, because that's what really counts, is whether there's good games for a thing. And if you find one experience that, you know, makes you say, I'm going to remember this forever, then, you know, you got something good out of it.
And I feel I did with especially Guardian War, but Burning Soldier, and then Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Samurai Showdown, and then Jurassic Park Interactive, Crash and Burn, for what it was, is a good racing game. I mean, it's several others. And that's the thing. That's where, even if we cover the Atari Jaguar and Jaguar CD, something like that with Tempest 2000. I mean, that makes us, a game like that makes a system.
It can, absolutely.
It can. It's worth that. So we all have our favorites, but there are some games that are good.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are some that are majestically awful.
Yep.
And we remember those equally.
Pretty much, yeah.
You know, so
though sometimes rather than wanting to remember something forever, you really want to forget.
I really want to.
Yeah.
but there are a couple, but most of them are on CDI though.
Yeah,
Honestly.
yeah.
Most of them are just dumpster fires. So, but I do want to thank you,
Yeah.
Rudy, for coming on and talking 3DO here. And
Absolutely. This is super fun.
it's been a whole lot of fun, a whole lot of laughs. And I mean, I'm pulling out my old trackball from 2000 here.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot I even had this. I showed this earlier about the mouse, but you know, the 3DO should have had something like this, maybe. I don't know. You know, the CDI had one.
Oh,
Except
really?
it was
Wow.
for kids. It's called the roller controller.
Okay. I mean, you know, if that's what you can get working on the CD, anything that you could do to improve the controls of the CDI, I'm in favor of. I'll just leave it there.
Yes, because they're brutal.
They are brutal.
It's bad, but thank you again. And if
Yeah.
you like what you've heard and you want to hear more, ding the notification bell, heart us, give us a like, and we'll be back for more. CBM and Rudy tells it like it is.
Absolutely.
Have a good evening.
Have a good night, everybody.